Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Emmitsburg's town meeting for the evening of Monday, September 8th, 2025. At this time, I would please ask that you silence your cell phones of any rings, beeps, or gaming notifications so everybody can hear and attend to the meeting accordingly. And with that, I welcome you and ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so as far as future meetings, the write-in election deadline is September 23rd at 12 noon. Town elections will be held on September 30th at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at 22 East Main Street, not here. Please spread the word. And Board of Commissioners meeting, the next one will be October 6th at 7 p.m. here in the town office and on Zoom. And I know it's not a meeting, but I just wanted to put a little plug in. We have our farmers market on coming up on September 20th as well. I believe it's September 20th. With that, we're moving into meeting minutes. Looking at the first that we have August 4th, 2025 and August 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Were there, let me ask this, were there changes that were made since, do we know?
There was some corrections.
Okay. Did you, for August 4th, did you want to outline your corrections or do we have those taken care of? They're just,
You can just approve as amended. They were
okay.
minor corrections,
Okay, just minor
not
corrections.
content, if I remember correctly.
Right, no content.
Right.
Right, okay. All right, so is there a motion to approve the August 4th, 2025 minutes as amended?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes 5-0. I'm sorry, I'm looking for a pen. Next, moving on to the meeting minutes for August 18th, 2025. This was a workshop about the rental registration. Is there a motion to, well, is it possible for us to add additional information as far as just the board mentioned there'd like to be changes in various sections and we'll bring it back for discussion? Is there a way that we can just summarize the action items that we had put in the town work in the workshop before? We usually have that in there.
You'd have to postpone them and bring them back then.
Okay. I don't, before, is there a motion to postpone so that we can have the sections listed out that we had discussed at the workshop?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay. Is there a motion to approve August 18th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed discussion, didn't I? Let me go back. Discussion? No?
Discussion on. We didn't have a motion.
We did.
The motion died.
Right, so then I
Okay,
said,
so-
is there a meeting to approve
Oh, I'm
it?
sorry. Okay.
And then nobody said anything. So is that another dead motion? We just want to throw these out the window completely. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes for August 18th, 2025 as presented? Okay. If not, let's. I feel like there's probably in between. Is there some discussion we can go into?
Yeah. I'm not sure where you want to go at. I'm not sure where you want to go at this point, though.
I'm just looking for a motion either way.
Well, let me ask this then. The motion to amend, the motion to postpone, I don't know, I guess. Can we go back to that?
Just to postpone to add, I think we had a list of sections we wanted to see changes. I was just thinking to list those sections. Because right now it's 2 sentences for a 2-hour conversation. Usually we highlight the actionable items in the very least,
Right,
but
okay. All right, well, I'll reinstate that motion and get these moved along to postpone the minutes for revision.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion on that? All in favor? I'm sorry.
So if there's actual items, exactly what they wanted, they can give staff the details then, discussion wise, so that they know what exactly.
I do think
being
it's all
asked for.
listed in the YouTube video at the end when we listed them out.
So that's what you want to have.
Yeah, we just said, okay, here's a summary, boom,
Okay.
boom, 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 boom.
Right.
It's already there.
So it's just to have this, I want to make sure staff is clear so we're not confusing them. So we just want them to review the tape and say, what was the last 15 minutes of action items listed on
Well,
the tape?
So we had the workshop to give direction to
Right.
staff. So then we had a lot of discussion, but at the end, we summarized the main points and said, can you look into, I don't know off the top of my head, but at the end of the meeting, we summarized it point by point and said, is that enough direction? And you said, yes. So
Okay.
that's,
That-
I'm not
Okay.
talking about like the back and forth.
Right, just the
summary.
the minutes. Kathy, would that be
just those
enough
bullet
for you to put that in the minutes, enough direction?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstain? Motion carries 5-0. Right. We're moving on to our police report.
Good evening. I am Deputy Bartholow. This is the monthly police report for August. For staffing, again, this month it was just myself. Good news, Deputy Honaker will be back on Wednesday, just a couple more days. So I'm sure everyone's glad to hear that. Took six holiday / annual, 1 sick day this month. Some special training or special events and training this month. We had the National Night Out, which was a great turnout. I had a full day of in-service training. We had the Mount St. Mary's party in the park. And then myself with our proactive enforcement team, we did like an operation on the 29th due to increased complaints about some of the Mount St. Mary's students back in the Silo Hill neighborhood. So we kind of just spent a lot of time back there and just to kind of help deter that, which was a good result back there.
Mhm.
No fleet issues, handled 56 calls of service, 1 arrest, 5 traffic stops. And then here is the full report with more specific ones if anybody has any questions or pointers on that one.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been getting or hearing feedback about speeding on Main Street.
Okay.
And I believe we have speed cameras on Main Street. Are they,
No, we don't have any speed cameras now.
they're just cameras?
Correct.
What-
Correct. And we have the LPR tag readers.
And what are they retags for?
They just read tags just in and out. They just collect information. And then
So no
if-
speed cameras on Main
Correct.
Street.
correct.
Do you often have an opportunity to do speed control on Main Street?
Yeah, I sit across from the Dollar General quite frequently. And obviously when I'm there, it definitely deters it. I wish we could, it would deter when we're not there, but yeah, I sit over there, and then on West Main, I often sit near the Doughboy there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the town manager's report.
Good evening. This is the town manager's report for July. Just a few noteworthy items related to streets. Staff dug out and installed new stop sign posts and bollards on West Lincoln Avenue at South School Lane. For the park, staff power washed graffiti off the new community park concession stand sidewalk. Wastewater, there are no spills of untreated sewage, and we did not exceed the plant's design capacity any day that month. On page 12 are the well depths. Trash pickup will remain on Mondays during the month of October. On page 13 and 14, I highlighted some of the key meetings I attended. And then just wanted to note, the staff and contractor repaired another leak on Waynesboro Pike in July.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions, comments for Ms. Willetts? No? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to grant administrative report. Is that you again, Ms. Willetts? No, oh, there you are, Maddie. I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Hi, yep, I'm here.
That's what happens when I have these half on.
So this is the grants administrator report as of August 22nd on page 15 of the agenda packet. I have one completed grant, this report, 19 active / open, one newly awarded, that's an advertising grant, and then 7 waiting for an award or denial announcement. A few project highlights. For the water clarifier project on Hampton Valley, the contractor Conwego is actively working on site, and the project is still on track to be completed in November. Our last project meeting, they were working on the HVAC is what they were telling us. And then for the Creamery Road Pump Station, the final punch list items are still being worked on. We did get an email today from the contractor saying they have one last item that they're hoping to get completed this week. And then I have several projects that are completed, but they're just waiting on reimbursements to be officially completed and taken off my report. And that would be for the bathroom project, the Rainbow Lake parking lot, the DePaul Street project, but only the water line portion of it, the welcome signs, the Rainbow Lake trail improvements. And as I said, once we get the reimbursements, they'll be taken off my report. And then the meetings I attended and grant reimbursements are on page 17. Are there any questions?
The traffic calming study for Lincoln Avenue, has a decision been made? And who's going to make the decision, or how will that consensus?
The contractor is supposed to send us a final report with the public comments. We did receive one. And so I think they're still working on the report because I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh, yeah, I haven't gotten it yet either. We have a progress meeting tomorrow. Yes.
And then the design of the mixed use lot in downtown, is that the parking lot that was purchased?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
I have just one quick one on the traffic calming study. Says, we obviously had the traffic calming study. Does that also mean we get the 3 LED flashing stop signs, or is that one of the options? Is it a calming study and the stop signs, or?
It was included with the grant. So we requested that in addition to the traffic calming.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Maddie.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to town operations specialist reports.
I'll take any questions. The only thing that I had noted on here is, and you already mentioned, was the farmer's market is on September 20th. And then September 20th is also National POW MIA Day. So the missing man table will be up on Main Street. It's nationally observed on the 19th. So we'll have it up on Main Street again on the 19th, but we'll also have it at the farmer's market on the 20th.
Okay, so it'll be on display twice.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, moving on. Town planners report.
Good evening. This is a town planner's report. I've listed the zoning permits that were processed during the month of August. Sorry, I'm not sure why my report says July. It should say August. And under development updates, Federal Stone, they got their occupancy permit. Their grand opening is on October 12th. And we're awaiting as-bills for the Creamery Court extension, so the bond can be released and street can be dedicated to the town. And we also worked on the Glow Fiber by Chantel's right-of-way encroachment application. The town engineer provided comments as well. And the applicant is currently working to address them. And under text amendments, we worked on the rental registration and the vacant property registrations. And we're also reviewing Title 16 and 17 of the town code to make improvements. We're continuing to work on the annual MS4 report that's due next month. And we are trying to revive our green team. There was an informal orientation meeting with individuals interested in serving on August 28th. And the next meeting will be on October 9th. And we're continuing to administer the community legacy grants. And I've listed the meetings that I've attended during the month of August.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Question about, I know we passed the student housing text amendment, and I believe anything over 5 bedrooms had to be an exception to go before the Board of Appeals. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Has Mr. Ott's property been scheduled to go back before the Board of Appeals?
We haven't received an application yet.
We're currently working on that with the town attorney.
For that, the appeal?
He has not filed.
Is there a time frame in which you have to file the appeal?
It should have been filed before he rented. I don't know if it's currently rented or not. So, but there is no application before us yet.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. So we are moving on to commissioner comments. We'll start with Commissioner Hagan.
Had a chance, the Grange Society and Future Farmers America invited me sat down to their potluck dinner the end of last month to discuss our farmers market and the community garden and their hopefully future involvement in it, and got a chance to meet from the area. We have 50 of our young adults made it to national for Future Farmers of America. So they're out there raising money so they can attend. So in total, we'll have about 150 people from the region attending from the Future Farmer of America for the nationals out there. So it's good to hear that that's out there. The kids are still getting that. Also had a chance to meet with Senator Alsobrook and Representative Delaney with some other elected members from Frederick County. We discussed trying to get additional funding for rural water and sewer. While they were personally in favor, they couldn't say, well, there was a date or they thought such a bill would pass, but it was floating around on Capitol Hill. So it's being discussed out there at least. And they, discussed with me how hard they work to help get the fire academy reopened. And if we at the town ever needs help, feel free to reach out to them. If we want them to come out, if such a thing would occur again, they'd be more than welcome to come out. And then last Friday, along with Mayor Davis, I attended the Thurmont and Emmitsburg Community Day. So pretty big turnout out there and crowds seem to be enjoying themselves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Turnquist,
I'll pass. Thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney.
Yes, the Lions Club, on behalf of the Lions Club, I'd like to thank everybody for their participation with the free meal program on the August the 13th. We fed 120 people. We made 125 dinners and we gave 120 of them out. So it was really well organized then, because we've been watching everybody else do theirs, and then it's getting better and better, I believe. So we're looking forward to it a couple more times. We opened a new concession stand this past weekend. We had a ball tournament there, and also frisbee golf. We had a deaf frisbee golf tournament, which went really well, and and everybody enjoyed having the concession stand open plus the bathrooms too. So I appreciate the town and all their efforts to get the bathrooms and the concession stand open on that side. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to piggyback on something. A lot of people commented on the ice cream at the dinner that went well, even though it melted quickly. They're trying to give it away at the end, but that was a lot of people really liked that idea.
Oh, the Sundays.
Yeah.
We had a Sunday bar, correct. Also, the pool concession stand has closed for the session, of the year, and it went really well this year. The pool did, it ran pretty well. We might have had a couple of bumps here and there, but other than that, the pool I think went pretty well this year. Other than the pool company. But we're working on that. So, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Hoover? Okay, I only have one thing I wanted to bring up about the ball fields, and I've noticed an increasing number of people using the ball fields as the dog park, to the point where there's regular meetups of multiple people letting their dog run around, and they don't always clean up after themselves, and we do have kids playing ball on those fields. When certain people have said something to them, a lot of them don't realize or say they don't realize that there is a dog park in Emmitsburg. So I was thinking maybe we could look into putting some kind of signage at the end of Cedar Avenue that kind of tells you which way to go to find different amenities, especially now that we have our bathrooms up and running. It might be a good opportunity to kind of point people into the direction of where to find those amenities. So it's just a suggestion. I don't know if there might be any grants that would cover that, but it certainly might help people find their way. And that's all I had. So moving on to Mayor Davis.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a busy month, but I'm just going to touch on a few really important things. School's back in session. We have a new principal at Emmitsburg Elementary who really wants to be involved in the community. I'll be sitting down with her on Wednesday to just a little meet and greet and see what she has in mind. But they're doing a lot of good things. Unfortunately, the Board of Education doesn't have any money, supposedly. That's a shocker. And a lot of the activities for the children are in jeopardy of not happening. Such as their day going to the fair as part of their school curriculum. They were going to charge the PTA $1,000 for buses to get the kids to the fair. So with that, we've had a private citizen, the Vigilant Hose Company, and I'm going to use $200 of the town discretionary funds to get those buses for the kids so they can make it to the fair next week. Because I think it's very important, since they don't have their full day to go anymore. There'll be some kids that would never make it there. And so we're going to make that happen. And the other real important thing, we're working with the county, met today with the Office of Aging. And they've developed a new program to work with citizens 65 years and older that have to meet certain criteria, but they have a program that'll come out and help them do fix-ups around the home, help them with food, help them with transportation to get to doctor's appointments and things like that. So it's just now getting started, but we're going to be a part of that, and we're going to stay on top of that. And I think it's real important to work with our aging citizens over 65. So I'll keep you posted on that. And the town will, I told them we would host a gathering of those people that qualify, so we can identify them and then help them get the services that they need. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any public comment tonight, so we're moving on to administrative business. Item number 1 is for consideration approval of election judges for the 2025 Town of Emmitsburg election. We do have 4 applicants. That's where you'll see listed on page 24 of your agenda. We have Sharon Hain, Tammy May, Melissa McKinney, and Mark Long. And the mayor had provided his recommendations below for the positions that they would fill during the town election. Is there a motion to approve the election judges for the 2025 town election?
Is there,
Is there, and this is for
is there a
consideration?
motion or just administrative business?
Well, it says approval.
It needs an approval.
I'll make a motion to accept the judges as selected.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to administrative business number 2 is just discussion related to committee meetings. That was something, this is just discussion. In light of, for consistency and transparency, I had been thinking about how can we have our committees be consistent in how we post things online with agendas and minutes, and as far as whether or not they're live streamed or posted to YouTube. So I think it would behoove us to look at our different committees to see consistency wise. I was going through the code. There are some inconsistencies as far as how things are worded. And if we want to make them consistent or tighten things up, do we want to look at things like Parks and Rec and Citizens Advisory for posting agendas online, posting the minutes online, and potentially live streaming it for accessibility for people who cannot attend in person but may want to be there. And then that could be part of our YouTube video channel as well. So this, I just was looking for feedback and what you thought.
So that's what I'll say is I'm in favor of, I would love to see them broadcast. The problem that I have, then we're paying staff to come in on them. And a lot of times these meetings never hit a minimum for an official meeting. So we're paying people to sit here and there's not an official meeting. You know, I can tell you it's Citizens Advisory in the last year once as it met quorum. And I know, you know, Parks and Rec has had problems hitting quorum too, once on time.
Mhm.
But so it's like, while I'm in favor of doing that, I don't know if spending the money on something that doesn't hit quorum and becomes an informal conversation is a productive use.
I think, well, we do have things in our code for people who habitually don't come to
Yeah.
meetings. They're supposed to be recommended for, because it does mess up the quorum if we have people there and they don't attend. So that is addressed in the code. However, and that's something that's to be considered, is historically, if there isn't a quorum on these committees, there's still discussion. People who show up, we, you know,
Right.
I think all of us have been in that position where we, you know, talk about, hey, what are your concerns? What are your ideas? And there's good informal discussion. I don't want to rule out the benefit of that either. Now, granted, is there anything official that can be proposed and move forward, as we definitely want this to be brought in front of the commissioners? Then
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the notes are great, and I've always held in the meetings, quorum or not, the discussions, as you said, the problem is, I don't think you can, by open meeting minutes, if there's no quorum, you can't post minutes because if there's no official meeting.
I would agree. So it's just like you said, it's a discussion, and then, and unfortunately, those who do come and show up and give their time to do what you're saying, like the ordinance says, they show up and do their job. And others who, you know, are unable to make it for one reason or another, but consistently, you know, they prohibit the opportunity for that item, the discussion, really to become a formal request, because the board did not request it. If you only have a small number of folks that doesn't meet a quorum.
and that's another question I had is, So like, let's say somebody on a committee has a concern.
Hmm.
Does that need to be an official vote in order to bring it up at
So-
a meeting?
So
As,
it would
as a
depend.
meeting,
Oh,
as a committee bringing it forward, yes. But if one person, two people, whatever it may be, that doesn't create a quorum,
Mhm,
have a discussion and they agree that, we should start doing X.
mhm.
But since it's not a quorum, it's not a vote of the committee. It's not a discussion. It's not an agreement of the committee to come back for the commissioner or whomever to bring it back and say, the committee said, because the committee did not.
Right.
So they'd be better served then for those individuals to come back to this meeting and have public comment.
Yes, yeah, I would agree.
I agree with everything Commissioner Hoover just said.
Okay, so if that's the case, then we need to have a serious look at our committees, because in order to
Make a,
In
we're
the-
gonna have to cut them down.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna have to cut the amount of committee members down in order to make the quorums.
Well, I mean, it says quorum is the majority of the number of seats that are filled. It doesn't say the number of seats available. So I don't think that that would change. Is that correct?
If that is what it says,
Yeah.
I don't
That's
have it
what
in
the
front of
code
me.
Yeah, the
says.
quorum is the number of nominated members
Right.
at that time makes, the majority. So as long
Right.
as you got 50% there, not counting the chairman,
Right.
you can have that. And I would agree with Commissioner Hoover. It's if the board votes and said, I'll give you an action. One of the things they discussed was having a crab soup contest. So if they would have made that a formal vote, then it'd been incumbent upon me to bring that to the board and say, this is an event we would like to have happen. And the board gets the final say on it.
If you had a quorum.
Right.
There was a quorum at the last one, though.
But they elected not to vote on it.
Were they guided to?
What
Do that?
there were
Bring that
other
forward?
issues that came up. And
So
they
what
got-
I guess what I'm saying is consistency wise, when I first joined the board, there was a place on the town agenda where it said Parks and Rec report, Citizens Advisory
Yeah.
report. That was there, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's been taken off. So now the only way we can hear somebody on those committees is if there's a quorum and there's an actual vote, then this board will hear about it. Which if that's the way it is, we need to make sure that that's consistently posted, and there has to be some kind of guidelines then for figuring out who's going to attend ahead of time, because if there's not a quorum, we don't want to waste people's time. And, or any of the commissioners.
Yeah, I would be in favor of having it as an agenda item
Yeah,
for us, to have the board member of the committee say, this is what the committee discussed and give a brief description. It used to be that way.
and if there was a way to figure out who's coming ahead of time, which I don't think would be very hard, if you don't hear back from people,
It
right?
is, I can speak, I've always had members tell me in advance, yes, no, they're
Mhm.
not going to make it or not. So I've never canceled a meeting, even knowing well in advance that people aren't going to attend, because I think it's just that feedback loop.
Yeah, but it doesn't go anywhere. So why? are we
But they
having-
may bring up
not-
complaints. If somebody comes and says, hey, I have a speeding problem, or people parking in front of my store and never paying for a parking meter, that's not something the board can address, but us as individual commissioners can have that looked into and address some of those issues. It's part of that feedback loop there
Is
also.
it though? Because I'm confused. Would that have to be a vote to come back as a concern?
As a committee vote, as a committee concern, yes, but I think what Commissioner Hagan's trying to say, if he hears of something at the meeting that has no quorum, and basically he's then listening to a constituent.
Yeah.
And he's coming back that I heard from a constituent or
Yeah.
something.
Right.
If that's what he's saying,
Right,
then that's reasonable. But to come back and say the committee said would be
right.
wrong.
Right.
Yeah, that's a different
agree.
thing.
So if that's the case, then they should be recorded even informally, is my opinion. And the reason why I say that is not only for protection for the commissioner who is in charge of that committee, but also for the members of that committee, and for anybody in the public or business owners who attend and want to, as a community, and want to provide that feedback. So there's protection for all three parties, so that there's no back and forth as to what occurred
Right.
at those meetings.
But it might past meeting I just had in August, we didn't have a quorum,
Mhm.
but we were here a good hour or so, and had a discussion. We did have someone come in the audience, who is here tonight too. But we did take notes, meeting minutes were taken,
Mhm.
even though we didn't have a meeting. He took notes of the meeting we were supposed to be having. So I don't know if he submitted them in to you guys or not.
But if there wasn't a quorum, then there
Right,
should
it
have
was
been
the
meeting
quorum,
minutes.
right,
That
that's
that you
correct.
didn't have an official meeting.
So
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you really didn't have an official meeting.
this is part of what I think I don't want to hammer it out now, but I think as a
I don't-
board, we need to come back.
It
to
doesn't
it.
sound correct to me that if you don't have a quorum, therefore you don't have a meeting or meeting minutes.
So, well, I mean,
The OMA has very
technically,
specific requirement.
right, technically speaking, if you have well, I guess that's where the quorum piece comes in.
There's no mention of a quorum under the Parks and Rec Committee.
There's no consistency between Parks and Rec and
Yeah. Well, because
that's another thing.
they have different requirements between the Planning Commission, the Ethics Commission, the Board of Appeals, different levels of requirements because of the different responsibilities that
Right.
each committee has. So, but under I just pulled up the Parks Committee, there is no mention of a quorum in the Parks Committee. There's no mention.
That's good.
Right.
Mm.
No,
So
and
there's
I
a-
think there is some inconsistency in the code on,
There's inconsistency because then if you have a meeting of one person, that counts as a
Right.
meeting for Parks and Rec. So
yeah, but going back to Commissioner Turnquist's point, which I understand, because because you can I mean, one of the reasons that we take certain precautions amongst all of our elected officials and boards is to make sure that we don't, accidentally violate the Opens Meeting Acts, right? If, certain people meet at a restaurant accidentally and then they start talking about public business under the Opens Meeting Act, that could, potentially lead to a violation.
I mean, I
But
think the OMA is clear in the fact that if a committee or a commission is established by charter, code, or resolution, the OMA applies, which means you have to have a notice of an advanced agenda.
Right.
You
So,
have to have meeting minutes. So what we're doing for this meeting and the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals would also be required for our other committees.
But if you don't have a quorum, they're officially a meeting. It's just a meeting with your constituents at that point.
if you let me sit down, I can answer this question definitively.
I think you could be better off, I think you could be better off coming back and making an agenda item for two committees,
Yeah.
The boards and commissions are different. So maybe you sort them out. Because the board and commissions have a final authority, where a committee just has a suggestion,
Right,
recommendation.
recommendation.
Yeah.
So I think maybe if you come back and just do an agenda item sometime in the near future to have a discussion of the expectations and what, the consistency as you say, and I agree with that the committees all fall under the same
mhm.
rules and regulations, quorum or no quorum, X number of members or whatever it may be, whatever you want to vote on. But I think there's a better opportunity for us to come back and have a discussion
Mhm.
focused on the current codes or ordinance for each committee, what committees we have out there, what the code is for each of them, the differences in them, what you like about them, and make them more one uniformity. This is the way a committee of Evansburg is supposed to be or not.
I think
And deal
I'm
with
in
just
favor of it.
have just
being
a single agenda item on it.
Yeah, it's not something that I think we can hammer out unless you
I-
want to, Commissioner.
I agree.
Okay. Um,
I do believe that having a quorum is operative to the OMA actually taking effect. And if we're going to make this a more substantive agenda item in the future, I can lock that down and have, things ready to go. But I think that does make a difference, just for what it's worth.
All right, thank you. That was just discussion, so we're moving on to the next item. Consent agenda. We have quite a few on our consent agenda tonight. So what I'm going to do is just go through, looking at we have a lot of proclamations to read. So looking at our consent agenda, can we, for 1 to 6, do you want me to read them out individually? No.
Let me make a motion.
Is there a motion to accept our consent items 1 through 6 as presented?
So moved.
Thank
Sec-
you.
Second,
Thank you. Any further discussion?
do you want to at least read
Yeah, and then I was
one,
gonna,
one,
we're
at
gonna-
least 1, 2, 3, 3 of the proclamations?
I was gonna have Najila read the proclamation for Eric and Diane.
All right.
All right, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Okay. Motions carry 5-0. And with that, we do want to turn it over to Najila to recognize Eric Soder and Diane Walbrecker for their work on the comprehensive plan. So we do have a proclamation for them.
Let it hereby be proclaimed on this 8th day of September 2025. The town of Emmitsburg hereby extends its sincere gratitude and heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Eric Soder and Ms. Diane Walbrecker in recognition of their dedicated service as citizen volunteers in the development of the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Envision Emmitsburg. The town thanks them for their thoughtful contribution as it has played a meaningful role in shaping the future of this community.
Thank you. Do we have something to hand out as well, or no? No, just a proclamation. Okay. So once it's signed, we can. So Eric is here. I would just like to have you stand up so we can recognize you. Diane couldn't be here tonight. Yeah, bring him in. That's those. Maybe with Najila. Najila, do
Yeah.
you want to come too?
Yeah.
Come on.
Sorry, thanks. I mean, it's the chairman commission. It's been many hours, lots of great work and appreciated it.
Come on in. I'm- all right. Get out of the way. Here, everybody's breathing. I want to get this. out of the way. I did shower. Does that work? All right, thank you. Thank you again for your hard work. We know that was quite a feat, so having your expertise was appreciated. And once we have it signed, we'll have something officially to hand to you. Typically, we have representatives here for the proclamation declaring September 2025 National Recovery Month. We're also declaring September 2025 National Preparedness Month, which has a long proclamation. I understand we do not have to read them, but I just wanted to make the announcement and point out that we're recognizing those months, those events this month. And with that, we turn to the treasurer's report.
Did you do 5 and 6 already under consent? For the appointments?
Did them all at once.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
This is the town of Emmitsburg cash activity as of August 20th, 2025. The cash balance on August 1st was $6,563,440. Deposits totaling $1,061,174. We withdrew $409,140. Operating balance forward of $7,215,474. The top 10 checks are there in the middle of the page. The fund breakdown as of August 20th. In our general fund, 1.7 million. Capital projects, 879,000. Stormwater management, 22,000. Our water fund, 102,000. ARPA, 766,000. Our sewer fund, 3.6 million, for a total of $7,172,603. I had a question about the semi-annual loan payment for Lincoln Avenue. I don't recall seeing it in the budget, so I was just wondering what that what the work project was and
It's from many, many years ago. It's in the budget. Let's see. You give me a minute, I'll find it. Shoot. It's here. I think it's this one without having Kim here. I think if you look on your budget at the bottom of water, you've got capital outlay and then you have geo interest. I'm pretty sure that's that one.
what's the dollar amount?
That one was, let's see here. It's in here, semi-annual. Oh, no, it's under your water CIP. Under debt service. So it's under, what was this amount? 50,772. It's under your, I believe it's the GO bonds. But let me confirm with Kim. It is in here. I'm just not sure which one it is because it's not labeled as the Lincoln Avenue, but I'll confirm. I'll shoot you an email tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I was curious how much we owe on that loan and was it for work done on Lincoln?
It's I believe it's a water line, but it's a water line. Yes, it's a water line.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving on, thank you. There was no planning commission, so there was no meeting for the month of August, so we can move on to our agenda items. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Agenda item number 1 is approval of resolution 25-07R, authorizing Mayor Davis and the town manager to file an application for federal assistance with the USDA Rural Development for West Main Street Waterline Replacement Project for consideration.
Mhm.
Good evening. So I just have a little presentation because in addition to the resolution being approved and passed, hopefully, the USDA wanted us to give the public an opportunity to hear about what the project is and comment, which I heard we didn't have any public comments signed up for earlier, but I just want to provide information on the project. So the agenda item was advertised as a public information meeting at the front desk window on August 14th, on the town website under public hearings starting on August 14th, on the town's Facebook page on August 14th, and in the Frederick News Post on August 18th. The USDA application requires the town hold a meeting to give citizenry an opportunity to become acquainted with the proposed project and to comment on such items as economic and environmental impacts, service area, alternatives to the project, or any other issue identified. A little background on the project. The proposed project would fund the design and construction of the West Main Street / Waynesboro Pike or MD 140 waterline replacement project. The West Main Street waterline is located west of the Emmitsburg Town Square. The project area begins at the intersection of Fairley Road and West Main Street and continues until approximately 9322 Waynesboro Pike, where the waterline ends, as indicated on the map on the screen. The project would replace approximately 5,200 linear feet of unlined 6-inch, 4-inch, 2-inch cast iron piping with a new 8-inch ductile iron pipe. Funding will be used to hire an engineer for surveying, design, permitting, bidding services, construction administration services, resident project representative services, and final utility as-built. Funding would also be used to hire a construction contractor that would replace the water line, provide and maintain a temporary above-ground water line, maintain flow of traffic, connect the upgraded pipe to the existing water system, and reconnect existing users to the water main. Once the water line is replaced, the contractor would also be responsible for paving and restoration work. The project is needed because this water line is one of our original lines that is approximately 70 years old. It has severe tuberculation and is frequently the location of many staff waterline repairs. These are photos taken in July this year, and you can just see the condition of the line is pretty rough, so it desperately needs to be replaced. The project is currently in the design and permitting phase. The town contracted with Fox and Associates, Inc. of Frederick, Maryland to complete the engineering design. This contract was awarded through a competitive bid And that was at the December 3rd, 2024 town meeting. The town anticipates 12 months for design and approximately 9 months for construction. If this resolution is approved tonight and funding is approved by the USDA, the town expects the project to go to bid next fall, with construction probably beginning around spring 2027. The estimated cost, or the resolution in the agenda packet has a blank line. And the copy that's going to be signed tonight it has it filled in, but we anticipate the total project cost being $2,800,000. And that's composed of engineering, a contingency, admin, legal services, bond counsel, interim financing, and construction. And so town staff is requesting the approval of resolution 25-07R, and the application's due October 1st. Are there any questions?
Would this be a loan or a grant?
We are requesting whatever the best possible funding for a pump station, or they gave us a loan and a grant. So it's just whatever the USDA has available.
And I assume we'll probably apply for other grants as they become available, like we are for North Seaton.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This will include all the little connector lines that are, I don't know who the last person is on the main line, the last house, but the water line must stop at the old ice cream place that was there, correct? Is that where it stops at? I know it goes out past,
It goes to Mountain View Road.
No, it goes.
Right?
it
No, it goes out past the hot dog. ice
yeah, no, it
cream.
goes out past that. That's what I'm talking
Mhm.
about, the old ice cream place.
Right.
It goes all the way to Mountain View where it goes back around, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't go all the way out.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly how far out it goes.
No,
There's
probably,
7 homes.
it's close to, if you go past Track Road and start up the little
Yeah.
hill, you get to the top of the hill there where
See
it
the
straightens
house,
out,
yeah.
out around, well, you
See.
guys would know where Halks live out in that area.
Yeah,
there.
house.
Yeah, that's about,
That's where it stops.
yeah,
at.
it's about halfway out
Okay, I
before
thought
you get to Mountain
But
View
that's all,
Road.
is that,
Okay.
that's not a main line though, right? Is that the main line, the whole
Mhm.
6-inch line goes all the way? up there?
No, it goes from like an 8 to a 6 to a 4 to a 2 to
Yeah,
a garden
that's the same.
hose down to two straws, so it's
When it gets to Track Road, it's only, I think, a 2-inch.
2-inch line.
Yes.
So are we replacing all the lines?
Yes.
All the same size and just connecting off, or is the 6-inch going to extend down, or?
It's gonna be whatever the engineers recommend to put adequate service out there.
Right, because if you need fire service out there, you're gonna have to have at least 6-inch line, right?
Right.
It's also to replace the pressure reducing vault valve right there at Brookfield.
Now, will this dead end still, or they make a loop out of this?
I don't know. We don't have the design yet, so
Okay.
I'm not sure how he was going to approach that.
Preferably be a loop.
Yeah.
Well,
usually-
yeah, a loop is ideal.
Okay. Anyway, we got a long ways to go for that.
Is the old hot dog stand outside of town limits
Yes.
Yes.
starting to look a little rough?
Yes.
Any other questions for the
Mm-mm.
approval of resolution?
I'll make a motion.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 25-07R. Resolution to file application for federal financial assistance with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Rural Development for the West Main Street / Waynesboro Pike water line replacement project as presented.
We don't need to specify the amount, correct? 2,800,000.
They
we
won't
do.
that.
The estimated cost of $2.8 million.
Okay. Is there,
I'll second.
thank you. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Moving on, agenda item, thank you, Maddie. Agenda item number 2 for consideration approval of ordinance 25-03, amending Title 8 of rental for a rental registration program.
So how would you like to proceed? I believe there's been several rounds of discussion about this proposed ordinance. And out of the workshop, I think staff made some revisions. Ms. Powell and I have reviewed the revisions. I have a couple of, well, really just one particular thing that I want to bring up, but do we want to start there? Do we want to start with any comments from up there first?
We can start with you.
Okay, so the one big thing I want to touch on is the absentee landlord agent issue. The first thing, and I noticed this as I was reading through it, as it appears in the agenda packet, and I am going to start with the ordinance that starts on page 40 of the packet.
Are they different? 'Cause I thought they were the same.
Well, there's two in the package, page 34 and page 40. I thought they
Right.
were identical.
It appeared to me that 34 and 40 in the packet are identical.
Okay.
And then I believe what was emailed out today was a red line version comparing the previous iteration of the ordinance
Mhm.
to what appears in the agenda packet.
That's correct.
So I can work off the red line if that would be easier for commissioners to follow.
Easier for me.
Okay, so let's go to the red line that was emailed out today. Which again, for clarification, is comparing the previous version that the board considered to what appears in the packet at both page 34 and page 40. So I understand the desire to have an agent present within a territorial bubble, just to be available for absentee landlords that live farther away, to make sure someone can be responsive to tenants, to make sure someone can be responsive to town concerns to the extent that they arise. Ms. Powell and I do have some reservations about that, generally speaking. There's some constitutional issues, Commerce Clause issues, and to the extent that we are requiring someone to hire someone to be within this bubble, to manage property that they own, potentially some equal protection issues. Now, I will say you see requirements like this in other rental registration ordinances around even our area. The city has this. And I did some research today and I didn't find anything definitively on point one way or the other. So if you wanted to move forward with that, you could. I think something that could be safer, or at least something that I would be more comfortable with, would be to the extent that you have a landlord or a property owner that lives out of the state, requiring them to have a resident agent in the state. I think that certainly would be acceptable and not subject to constitutional scrutiny. So that's my first point. And then second point, related point, as this ordinance is currently written. So the very first page, the definition of agent: an authorized representative of a landlord who resides within 40 to 60 miles of the town limits. So if we're going to keep the mileage restriction, I think it should just be within either 40 or 60, not 40 to 60.
I think the idea was, I think we batted around 40 and 60 at the meeting, but maybe landed on 60.
I think we landed.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me, but if we're approving something,
Right.
pick one, right? And then I do think when you go back to where this actually takes effect, bear with me. $30. Oh, here we go. So on page 3, under the top there, B, all absentee landlords must have an agent resident within the state of Maryland who can be contacted for each rental unit. Thought that that was perhaps inconsistent, but
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
gonna be now
Within
the
60.
60
60
miles,
miles.
not in the state.
right, depending on which way you want to go. If you want to do the 60 miles,
I
it's
think that we had kind of settled on 60 miles.
Mhm.
Living so close to the border within the state doesn't make sense, is what we discussed last time.
Mhm.
okay. So in any event, just that needs to be consistent with whichever direction you guys go on that requirement, whether it's 60 miles or whether it's within the state.
Okay.
So that was the one thing I wanted to bring up, but I'm also happy to answer any other questions or concerns that you have about the remainder of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does anybody want to start it off? Actually, Clark, I have one for you.
Sure.
Should the definition of student housing be listed in here? Because I would imagine student housing is rental and therefore they would have a rental registration as well?
I think that
Or does that go under? How does that work? Maybe that's a better question. How does that all play together?
so I don't have the student housing ordinance in front of me, but my inclination would be that this sits over top of it. The rental registration applies to any rental property, and student housing is kind of its own little subset within that. But
This is the parent,
yes,
this is the parent ordinance.
right.
Mhm. Okay. So then my second question is, if this sits over top of it, I think this says, I have to find it now. Under 8.02.030 general requirements, number or letter H, no more than 2 adults may occupy a room. That would contradict what we have in student housing. So how does that work? Because student housing, we say no more than 1 individual per bedroom.
Student housing falls under the zoning code, Clark, and this falls under health and safety. Just pointing that out.
So
I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
which one would somebody follow? Because if I was a landlord and I saw I could put 2 people in a room, like which one trumps the other?
So
That's why I'm wondering if it.
no, yeah. I mean, my
1 student per bedroom.
2 adults may occupy a room.
What page is that on?
That is on page 3 of the red line version.
It's column H.
Yeah, I had a question on the second part of that. The number of minor children is not limited per bedroom. I think we need to adjust that. I mean, we don't want 10, 15 kids in 1 bedroom. There should be some sort of limitation.
I don't think that you can, Clark, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can limit the number of minor children in a bedroom. I think from our discussions with Leslie, but I'll defer to you on that one.
Yeah, I think there may be an issue with that, which is probably why it's written in this
Mhm.
fashion.
So
So, So if the student housing ordinance lives in the zoning code, I think that with respect to whether or not, and I'm just going to talk this through. So if a property is zoned for student housing or meets the criteria of student housing, I think that the more specific regulation there in terms of how many people can occupy a room is going to apply in the student housing context. And because it's more specific in that instance, it would trump this more general definition of what is acceptable under the rental property ordinance or the rental registration ordinance.
My only concern with that is, I mean, and maybe bring up a good point, is that that's going to leave it for subject to interpretation at the time. So over the time and over years, whomever is sitting here interpreting that at the staff level or wherever, will get the opportunity to read that his or her way and may give different people different options. So I think we need to spell it out a bit better. So something, I mean, where it says here, so no more than 2 adults may occupy a room. I don't know if we got to start that off unless listed differently. I don't know the exact words, but unless listed differently in other ordinances, then this applies.
I think you could say that, although I actually don't think that it is subject to differing interpretations. I think the reason that I'm being slow in my response is that's a good question that I hadn't thought about, and I don't have the student housing ordinance in front of me, so I'm trying to piece that through. But I think there is actually an answer to that question, and I don't think that it would lead to potential inconsistency in application.
So if I understand correctly, so just because you go get a rental registration permit doesn't mean you get student housing.
Correct.
So you get your rental registration program, your rental registration permit first, and then you have to go to the Board of Appeals for a special exception. And to me, that's where, and obviously you're the attorney, you can correct me, that's where the 1 student per bedroom, because that's how it reads, maximum occupancy shall be limited to 1 student per bedroom. That's for the Board of Appeals then to address.
Yeah, because we're treating students different than.
But I
But-
believe it
but-
only goes to the Board of Appeals if there's more than 5 bedrooms. So you can have a boarding
No.
house with 5 bedrooms and rent a bedroom to 5 different students, and it does not require Board of Appeals exception approval.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. That's what we voted on.
That's what
Yeah,
was voted on here.
yeah, that's.
Yep.
More than
Student housing is now considered a boarding house unless it's more than 5 bedrooms.
No, I don't think so.
It's not correct.
A boarding house is
Not correct. A boarding house is a dwelling in
Is a
which for
zone.
compensation, lodging, or meals, or both are furnished to not more than 5 guests. A boarding house shall not be deemed home occupation. I don't think that's correct, but
So when we
Can you
brought this
pull the,
up,
has a new ordinance been posted?
It-
That was passed?
it's not online yet that I saw.
Because when I looked
it should be
online
online.
a couple of weeks ago, I didn't see it with the exceptions spelled out.
So the exceptions,
Because boarding house is a use. And the same as student housing is a use.
But remember when it came back to the board, the attorneys had taken out the student housing definition and we were left with boarding house and rooming house. And some of us argued that there wouldn't be officially student housing exceptions unless the rental had more than 5 bedrooms, which Mr. Otts did. And I think that's the only criteria other than a fraternity that brought it to the exception level.
That is correct. That's how that meeting went. Because when I said, so we could have student housing in a room by room rental, Yes, we can have student housing in a boarding house. Yes. You can have students renting there. So,
Correct.
correct.
But
So,
that, that would be, but they would still be in a boarding house, not in a student house. They're just a student renting. No different if they rent a whole home.
so the only time somebody's not allowed to have more than two people in a bedroom is if that room is part of a unit that has more than 5 bedrooms and is all for student housing, it's all students. See, this is part of,
Say it again.
so student housing means, it says right here, group of living quarters for students, of
Mhm.
which I don't know how you're going to determine that because we're not allowed to ask. For students, each of whom is enrolled in post-secondary school, which includes common cooking facilities, bathrooms, and other rooms that may be shared within one dwelling unit. The maximum occupancy for student housing should be 1 person per bedroom within each dwelling unit. So you could technically have students in a boarding house,
Correct, but it's still a boarding house.
correct? So,
And that does not require an exception. If a boarding house is being used solely for students and there's 5 or fewer bedrooms, it does not require an exception to be filed with the Board of Appeals.
correct. That's the only time it requires an exception is if it's more than 5
I think 5 bedrooms.
bedrooms. So, but then that goes into, for rental registration, we had asked for on the application. So we went back and forth. We're not allowed to ask who's there, right? But so we settled on maybe the number of tenants. So we knew how many were there and the type of rental registration. I think we talked about that too last time, did we not? Like whether it was a
That some
student housing or.
Some towns require a list of who's renting the property,
Right.
like their name, phone number.
A boarding house is 5 guests, not necessarily 5 bedrooms, the way the code is.
But I
written.
think the way that,
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying for a definition of boarding house, it's not necessarily 5 bedrooms, it's up to 5 guests.
you show what the exceptions are for when it has to go before the Board of Appeals.
For student housing,
Yeah,
um,
read it. I don't remember seeing a copy of the updated final version.
student housing provided they meet the following conditions. One off-street parking, trash. A dwelling unit shall not be located within 500 feet of any other property operating as student housing or a boarding house.
Does it mention the bedrooms or number of people?
No. It
Is
says
that-
it says maximum occupancy shall be limited to 1 student per bedroom. The dwelling unit, all requirements of the International Building Code. My understanding is this is all special exceptions, so they all have to go to the Board of Appeals, the way this is written.
I'll have to go back and check because I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that was either. There was some, but I forget what it was. But the two different things are 2 different uses. So the houses would be permitted as a boarding house or permitted as a student housing. No different than thinking of, that's the way,
I don't think so.
Yeah,
We're gonna have to go back and check
'cause-
because
because it's a use, it's a zoning use, no different than if you was doing single homes, duplexes or townhouses or what have you. That would be the
Because
use.
I mean, I remember saying, well, this decision's gonna open the door, it's gonna wide open for any property in the village zone with 5 or fewer bedrooms to be used as student housing without a special exception.
Which is why we put the distance in there. We talked about a distance of 300 or
Right,
500
for
feet.
500
properties
feet.
with more than 5
For-
bedrooms.
for
I'm
student-
I'm
for student
almost
housing.
sure that was in there. Okay,
For
I'll
stu-
have to go back and
For
check.
student housing,
Maybe I'm wrong.
but you could have student housing here and 100 feet down the road, have a boarding house. But the way the ordinance was discussed and approved was student housing would have to be only one so many, I forget, I think we said.
Well, I think the reason it was an exception is because a boarding house is limited to 5 people, right? So if it's a boarding house is used for students, that would be 5 bedrooms, 5 people, 1 per bedroom. So anything over 5 bedrooms would require an exception through the Board of Appeals.
It's written as a special exception. It's written as a special exception. That's how the ordinance is written. Student housing is a special exception. So if you want student housing, then you have to go to the Board of Appeals.
But we.
That's
but-
how the ordinance is written.
but we
It's on
pro-
the website too.
But we provided certain, what the exceptions really, what the, what must be
The conditions
the
are
conditions.
off-street parking.
And those are things for Board of Appeals to take into
They
consideration.
they had to consider, those things had to be available.
Correct.
And that's where we put the 500 feet or whatever it was part.
Right.
Where's that?
Okay. Yeah.
I
So,
think
so
Leslie
really,
Took out the definition of student housing.
well, I mean, based on what
Well,
I,
no, you know what was changed? Boarding house said cannot be used for student housing. She removed it. Rooming house said cannot be used for student housing. She removed it.
got it. And so what was passed was there's a definition of student housing that was added to the table,
Mhm.
which I'm assuming the table shows that it is a special exception in certain zones. And then the conditions for approving the special exception are listed here, and they're what Commissioner Hoover alluded to, that you can't be within 500 feet of another one, and the off-street parking, the trash, things like that.
But student housing is a use, correct?
Right.
Is it a grant?
It is a use. So
Same thing as a boarding house is a use, but they're two separate uses.
that is true.
So I
But a
can have
boarding house can be rented to students
It can-
under the definition.
It can be rented to students, but but that doesn't make it student housing. Just because it's young people, I'm going to say, just because it's young people does not make it a student house.
No, but I'm saying a boarding house can be rented to students.
It can be, yeah.
And it's not called student housing. It's
Correct.
still called a boarding house.
It's a different
And we're
use.
renting it to students because it's 5 or fewer bedrooms. I'll have to go back and watch the YouTube video because I know we discussed this.
So this, first, the definition of student housing actually doesn't say. I don't know that I'm looking at the most updated one. Doesn't say anything about number of bedrooms other than one per person per bedroom. But somewhere in there it was
Well, it refers,
allowing student housing in more than 5 bedrooms or something.
so the definition of student housing refers to dwelling unit. And dwelling unit is otherwise defined as a building or portion thereof arranged or designed for occupancy, but not more than one family for living purpose and having cooking facilities. So student housing allows for students to share a dwelling unit, but limits the number of students per bedroom within said dwelling unit to 1 per bedroom. And so getting back to the rental registration ordinance and section H that you were referring to, that requirement that no more than 2 adults occupy a room applies generally to rental properties, but for properties that are rental properties and qualify as student housing, the requirements are more stringent and it's reduced to 1 per bedroom. So that's how they would interact. This rental registration applies across the board. Sorry, just concerned. But the student housing limitation applies only to student housing. And I don't see those two things as conflicting as written.
So is there, we had talked about the last meeting, having a box for what type of rental registration this is. So that you can, otherwise, how do you know where they are to know where the? Yeah, did we not talk about that? Anybody
Yeah, I
remember?
think it's been a concern from the get-go. If I live in Silo Hill and I want to rent out my property,
Mhm.
I'm gonna request a rental registration permit to
Mhm.
rent out 5 bedrooms to individuals. That's considered a boarding house in the zoning code. a boarding house is not permitted in Silo Hill.
Then you would not be able to,
Approve the rental, and then we're gonna evict a whole lot of people. Boarding houses are only allowed in the village zone. So any rental in this town outside the village zone, renting to individuals will not be permitted. According to the zoning code. Because a boarding house, you can't have a boarding house in Pembroke or Brookfield
Yeah,
or
can't have it in
Silo Hill
R1.
or Emmett Ridge or only the village zone. So I think the rental registration is going to conflict with our zoning codes. Following?
well, I can see where, I guess I'm not following how that would preclude any rentals outside the village zone.
With the individual rooms, instead of renting the house, if I have 5 individuals renting rooms as opposed to a unit renting the house in totality,
Mhm.
that individual room rental makes it a boarding house, which zoning says can only be in the village zone. So if I have a 5-bedroom house in Brookfield, I can't rent it out to 5, and I can rent it to a family, but I can't rent individual bedrooms.
Yes.
And I do think zoning or not, there are some HOAs that specify you can't rent by the room. So what trumps what? I mean, I would imagine HOA trumps this.
So
No.
the town, so
No, town code trumps the HOA.
Oh, okay.
Well,
HOA
HOA
is
is
controlled
stricter.
with, it may be stricter.
they can be stricter.
But we don't
can't-
control that.
They can't be,
The town doesn't
have
control that.
less,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So what you were getting at is correct. Yes. If the HOA had a more stringent limitation on use than town's code.
Right.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't have anything to say about it, but the HOA could attempt to enforce its covenants.
Right, because I know we were talking about making this for all rentals, right?
Right,
Not
right.
just village zone.
Correct, which it is. It is for all
Right.
rentals, no
It is
matter
for
where you
all
live.
rentals, but then,
All
Right.
residential rentals, yes. That's what this is for.
so. And is that something that,
So whether your HOA allows it or not, the town code may, but your HOA being more stringent in that,
right,
then that's something along. as
Right. The HOA could still
HOA
deny it.
To deal with.
how would the HOA deny it?
If it's in their covenants that you can't, HOAs have put in covenants like you can't do Airbnb or you
That I
can't do this.
understand, but who's gonna monitor it? So. it
That's
wouldn't
up
be
to the HOA.
It wouldn't
Right.
be up to the town to
Correct.
monitor.
Not the HOA.
No, the town's not enforcing the HOAs. That's on them.
And that's why I say that this would trump the HOA only because from us, the perspective of the town, this is our control.
It would trump to the extent that this is the only thing that the
Internally-
town would look at.
Internally with that group, yes.
Sure.
So it's like we're saying you can't have a boarding house, saying Emmett Ridge because of the requirements. If you can't individual rooms, 5 or more people, that limits that. The HOA can't say, well, we're going to allow it. The HOA can't overrule.
That
Correct.
part I understand, but it could be stricter. HOA could be.
It can be stricter,
Okay.
Yeah.
but then it's up to them to enforce it,
Understood.
not the town.
Okay. Right. Um,
I don't want to approve anything where we're, potentially a lot of people could be evicted because we don't meet the zoning code. At the same time, we should be enforcing our zoning code. I mean, I think the purpose of this was to make sure that rental properties are safe, to improve dilapidated properties. I think we could do that with a maintenance code. But if this is approved, there's going to be repercussions.
So then how does staff address the zoning issues? Because you're right, the student housing is not permitted in Silo Hill and we all know that they're there. So then when staff gets complaints, how are we supposed to address it? Because you're gonna end up with the same end result of putting people out.
Right, but if there were complaints, then yeah, I mean, there would have, the complaint would have to be followed up on and
Maybe a zoning
investigated.
complaint.
And if a student is found to be living where they shouldn't in town, they would have to be given notice to vacate if a complaint is filed.
And that's true today because
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
you've passed this student housing ordinance.
But even if,
And it might be, I'm sorry.
even if we pass this, I don't see how that would be helpful if we don't know what type of
To me, it might be worth better off looking at your zoning code to see if you want to permit these uses in that zone so that you can accomplish two birds with one stone. You're not kicking anyone out of these other zones, what's Silo, sorry, R2, R1, R2. So you're not kicking students out of there or renters out of there, but then you're meeting your zone, your zoning code, and you're also accomplishing safe housing.
I think then if that's going to I'd be hesitant to look at that because then we're looking at doing something that's going to conflict with the HOAs and putting the HOAs in a really tough position by opening the doors to that.
No.
Do we know that it
No.
conflicts with the HOA?
That conflicts with Southgate. You can't rent by room.
Not by room, but say the entire property.
I think that's how people are getting around it now, is that one person rents the entire property and then, you know,
They sublet.
yeah, that's what's happening, but, but that would be different if we were to change the zone.
Technically, one student can rent the whole house,
Mhm.
and then they can just take all the other tables on the other students.
Right,
So it'd be still just one renter.
right, right. And there are some HOAs that say no subletting as well. So again, that puts it back onto the HOA, but
But if the HOA has it, they have it now. It's up to them to enforce.
correct, but by changing the zoning, it's gonna be even harder to enforce.
I guess I'm missing it. How would it be harder?
So are
for
we
them?
changing the zoning to allow boarding houses in
That was just
R1?
what I was saying, that if, you know, and I understand what Commissioner Turnquist is saying, that, yeah, these student housing is, you know, 5 or more not permitted in the Silo Hill. And we all know there's student housing in Silo Hill. Boarding houses aren't allowed. Student housing right now is not permitted. What I suggested was if you want to accomplish both, allow the boarding house in Silo Hill and also have the rental registration to provide safe housing for everyone. You could extend where you allow boarding houses. Maybe it's just in R2 and not in R1. That was just a suggestion.
That's an idea.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going around and around with this.
Yeah, I think
Is this
it's
something that
that-
requires more discussion?
More discussion. I just have one other question, of course. I want to make sure,
Please.
because one of my concerns when we discussed it before was people just making claims because they don't like renters next door to them.
Mhm.
So on page 1, that last paragraph about credible violations,
Sure.
because I didn't want people getting stuck with fees just because they had a neighbor that didn't like the idea that there was renters next door and everything. So that we're good with that type of language. And
The credible violation.
Yeah.
I think that's helpful. Yeah.
okay.
No, I agree.
Just a few little ones.
Sure.
That might be easy to take care of too. I think in one of the drafts, we had taken out the word servants, I think, and substituted it for household employee because, correct?
Right, that was on the student housing one, but the reason we took out everything else but the student housing from that, because the way we advertised it in our public hearing, we didn't mention boarding house, rooming house, we just mentioned student housing. So other amendments that were made, they were just not added.
So in order to change family to take off servants, would that be a separate issue?
Yes. So, and I know that is on her list of things to go over all the planning definitions. And actually do an overhaul of the planning codes. So that is on our list to take care of.
Yeah. All right. I thought I remembered that from something.
Yeah, I had some other comments regarding the appeal process and the building codes and life safety requirements, the minimum maintenance standards, but it sounds like it's going to come back. So we might as well wait to see what direction we're going to go in.
Well, I guess what I would say is if this is going to go away and come back again, it might be helpful to
Have direction.
unless you're going to totally pivot to a different direction that doesn't look anything like this. It would be helpful for if you have questions about the appeal process, and that's something that I can address in
Do
between.
you want me to go through it then?
I'll
Some of it we've already talked about.
I guess my point is going to be that, obviously when we move on from this topic, we'll want to make sure that staff, myself included, has a clear direction of where we want to go. So if there are comments that you have towards that end, I think better to hear them now.
Okay. We talk about, the application form, and you have to include the address, the number of rental units, and so on and so forth. If there's an application you have to fill out, I don't see a need to specify in the ordinance what you have to include on the application, because the application could change over time. And what's required is going to be shown on the application.
True, but if there are things that you want to make sure are on the application.
Well, if you get an incomplete application, would you accept it? Just curious.
I think my position would be no, unless there was a justification for why it was not completed.
Okay, if dwelling units were built before January 1st, 1978, the owner must provide inspection certificates. If we add the word lead, because I had to look that up to see what it referred to, and it was lead.
Yep.
The appeal process is only allowed if the rental registration permit is denied. Okay, but I think the appeal process should be if your permit is revoked, if you've been hit with a fine or a penalty. I think we need to broaden the scope of the appeal process.
I think we talked about, Clark, we talked about that with Leslie.
Mhm.
The fines and all that, those go to the courts.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple, and I mean, so, and this will be true of the next ordinance that we look at. In terms of appeals, I think there are a couple ways to handle appeals. Anything that results in a fine under this ordinance is going to be enforced through a citation, which will go through the municipal infraction process, which if the person who is cited wants to contest it, they tell the town they want to contest it, we send it to the court, and a hearing is set at that point, and the court determines whether there was actually a violation of the town code or not. So you could handle it that way and not have a separate appeals process in general. If you do want to have a separate appeals process, which as written, the Board of Appeals is going to be hearing these issues.
Yeah.
I think it could make sense for denial of registration or revocation. But the garden variety citations, I don't think it really makes sense to have an appeals process for that. And I would almost even argue that doesn't make sense for the big stuff too.
The Board of Appeals though is for zoning. They're not for infractions or
that. I mean, that was
they're not here for punitive.
That was another point that I was going to make, is that's kind of the Board of Appeals is stepping outside of its lane if this is where it's going to go.
Right. They have zoning regulation.
Right.
Or authority.
So you fine folks could hear those appeals if you want. or you could designate another committee to hear those appeals, which
We need a forum first.
Thank you.
there you go.
I think the third party of the court system is the better,
Yeah, because I
Stick-
think
in
yeah,
my
at that
opinion,
point, you're getting into
is to stick
the
with
the
it.
nitty picky of what's legal, and I'd rather have somebody that's versed, in the code rather than just a layperson saying,
Yeah, I mean, I think it can make more sense for a larger jurisdiction such as the city of Frederick when you have more public servants who can, they can fill out committees like this to hear these types of appeals.
Right.
I don't know that it makes as much sense in, a jurisdiction with our resources and manpower.
difficult.
Yeah, so I hear your concern. Maybe when we come back, I'll
Okay.
put some more thought
What you said
into,
Makes sense.
whether
Yeah.
that even makes sense.
Fines and penalties would go before Frederick County.
Right. Yeah. I mean, essentially what it would be is if we revoked a license and they continued to rent, we would cite them and then it would work itself through the court system. So yeah, I think maybe put some more thought into that, but
And then something that was added is, it did say violations of this chapter, and then it was added, including property maintenance and nuisance violations. So property maintenance and nuisance violations was added, I think.
I
in
see
this-
that. Yeah. Up right above the appeals
Yeah,
section.
so
Yeah.
my question, I guess I haven't seen where the property maintenance and nuisance violations are detailed.
that's
Like, what are those requirements?
those are the town codes, like for grass cutting, everything like that. That's what's spelled out there.
Nuisance violations?
Yeah. like
Noise.
I guess I
noise.
would want to see what in the town code is covered under property maintenance and nuisance violations.
Okay.
Um, so I do see that it was added in about the town has the right to suspend or revoke rental permits. So thank you for adding that. Does that need to be made more clear?
Are you talking about the very last provision in E?
As far as what would constitute, or maybe it has to do with, first violation, second violation, third violation, as outlined in B.
Yeah, I mean, so I think criminal activity is fairly self-explanatory, and nuisance, I mean, you could provide a more specific definition of what the town considers nuisance. Otherwise, I think it would just default to a general sort of common law. What is nuisance law under property?
Right.
One interesting thing I did want to point out about this is there would be some tension, and I think it would be fine to leave it as may. The town may suspend because under the landlord tenant laws, if a landlord does not have a rental license from a jurisdiction that requires a rental license to rent property, it actually limits their ability to bring certain eviction actions.
Mhm.
And in a case like this, where illegal conduct or nuisance behavior is happening at a property, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to assume the landlord is going to want to do something about that too, and want to take steps to, enforce the provisions of their lease that would probably forbid a tenant from engaging in such behaviors. And so in those cases, if the town actually yanked the license, it could be counterproductive because then the landlord could not evict the tenant.
Can't charge rent either.
Right. Yeah.
Not legally.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have this provision in here in the event that you have a landlord that is not, for whatever reason, allowing the behavior and doesn't want to do something about it. I think it's good because then it holds their feet to the fire.
Mhm.
But I did just want to point that out. It's kind of an interesting quirk.
Okay. And then I know last time we had tiers of violations. So just for clarification, first offense, second, or first violation, second, third, and so on, has the amounts listed there. And then C says each day a violation exists. Should that say continues? Does it exists or continues shall be considered a separate and distinct violation? So does that mean by day 3, we're jumping up to a third violation if it's not addressed, or how does that,
That is correct.
okay? Because that's not a lot of turnaround time for them if it's a property maintenance thing too.
But if they're addressing the thing, if the violation and they come to us and said, oh, we're fixing a blocked window and they'll be there Wednesday and they tell us that Monday. I don't think we're going to fine them Tuesday and Wednesday, but if they just ignore it,
Well, that's what I'm saying. It gets kind of,
It's expensive. The fines are really high.
no, I mean, like, how do you, I wouldn't want to be in the position of trying to figure out when the second violation comes into
Well,
play.
well, the intent is that, like Commissioner Higgins started to say, I mean, it's, if you send them a violation letter and say is, September 1st, you're in violation. If they come to the town office and say, well, what do I need to do on the 1st or whatever, then they would be working on that violation. If I'm saying something wrong, tell me.
No, I agree with you. I think
They would
as
be
far as
working on-
property maintenance, I think they should be given the X number of days to fix it.
Right,
Just like for mowing example, we go out, we'll put a door hanger, we give you
14 days or so.
however many days. And then if you call and say, hey, my mower, it's going to be 2 more days, fine, and then we don't. So I think for the
that's-
property maintenance, there should be a
Yeah.
time frame to get it fixed.
Is that already outlined in our property maintenance code for like? time-
For grass?
Yeah, for
for
like
grasses.
timelines and stuff?
Yeah, so well, I hesitate to say any, but most of the code sections
Mhm.
do have a, after 7 days
Right,
notice,
right.
14 days notice.
So that's what I was saying. It may already be covered. Okay.
Right.
So they get the opportunity to fix it right off the bat without any violation.
right.
But on day.
But if
15 or
they
whatever,
ignore it, what I don't want to see is, let's assume they've blocked in the back door, so nobody can, there's no egress out of the building. And we say, hey, that's a violation, you have to fix it. I don't want to give them a month to fix that. They have to address it. If they come back to us day 1 and say, hey, my construction crew will be here at the end of the week to fix it, that's one thing. The stay silent for a week is untenable in my book. That's our whole life safety issue.
Okay. Right.
Could you write it that if it does impose a significant
Emergency situations,
danger or something,
essentially. Yeah,
right?
good.
I think it says in here, life safety requirements will not be waived. So it would probably be covered. I think I saw that in here.
But that's part of the inspection. Where it says those, here it is, item I. Existing rental units that have not undergone major structural modifications may be exempt from full compliance. And it reads on, it says, but standards for habitable space and life safety requirements may not be waived. So that's part of their application process. Not down the
That
road,
part
not
of-
down the road later, we find a violation of that.
The part that says that compliance is infeasible due to the age or the original construction. I mean, that leaves a pretty broad discretion with the housing official
It does.
who could interpret different homes in different ways. So I just think it needs to be a little more solid.
Well, so they have to prove that it's not feasible. This is what you're talking about, right? Full compliance with current codes if the owner provides documentation demonstrating that compliance is infeasible due to the age and original construction of the unit. The burden of proof is on the owner. So they would need to, essentially hire an engineer or an architect to show why it can't be brought up to code.
Yeah, it's like my interpretation, and correct me if I'm wrong. If we come back and say your doorway isn't wide enough, house is 100 years old, and they come back and say, if we widen it, it's now no longer structurally sound. The reason we're not requiring that. It's stuff like that.
And they would have to provide documentation of that.
Documentation saying that
They
it
just
would-
can't say it, right? They have
Right.
to
No,
prove
they
it.
have to
What
prove
about-
that it's,
What about
Everything's
if
doable.
there's,
It just costs money.
like, I don't know, the older homes in town, is there a possibility that a room is less than 70 square feet? Would that be a possibility with or the ceiling height?
Yes,
Well, sure, yes.
Okay, well,
Absolutely.
that I believe is non-waivable.
Correct. Yeah. So then but you get into that itemized list below there. Those are stuff that's non-negotiable. There's no, if it's not 70 square feet, then it's,
Even for the older homes
Mhm.
or a home that hasn't been renovated.
that's right.
I don't know that that's really clear. And I guess my only other thing, because I don't want to hold this up, is the standards for the space, page 46 in the agenda packet. I believe, so the code, I mean, the ordinance talks about the Frederick County Building Code, the minimum livability code, the life safety requirements, and the minimum maintenance standards. And now I should have added nuisance standards. I'm not clear where all of those things are. So I guess I would want to see a checklist or a list of, like, if I want to rent out my property, I want to know what you're looking for. Like the standards, I think I read in the ordinance that these may not be waived. I think these are life safety requirements.
Yeah.
I think they're also part of the building code. Well, they are the IRC, the International Residential Code, I think it is. So they're a little bit of both. And then it says on page 49, once occupied, the unit must meet Frederick County minimum livability code. And so I was glancing to see what that was. And I think I read something in there like you must have a window screen. Well, my house wouldn't even pass because I don't have window screens in every window. So I want to make sure we know what is required because I'm not clear on what the inspector would look at.
So to piggyback on that, I'm looking at the standard for all the standards that we're looking at for safe houses, that it's Board of Commissional Rental Workshop. And it says here under fire, wait a minute, nope, where is it? For the sprinkler system, requires automatic sprinkler systems in buildings. I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. That's why I wanted to ask. It says for group R occupancies, residential, including boarding houses and apartments, sprinklers are required when creating more than 2 dwelling or sleeping units or when converting to a higher hazard use. Does that mean?
Sorry, where are you looking? I'm sorry.
Standards?
Oh, that's Frederick County standards for habitable spaces.
What I just said there is when somebody changes the use to that.
Okay,
So-
so,
Right.
all right, okay.
So they would have
understood.
to,
Correct.
to get that change of use, they would have to meet that standard.
Okay, understood. Thank you. And is there a consensus on the board that we would like to possibly see what type of registration that they're doing on the application? I think, or no?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What type?
So how do we know if it's a boarding house versus a rooming house versus a whatever house?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. It's a permitted use. So if they change their house, so if you have a single family house and you want to rent it as a boarding house, then you have to change that use to boarding house. And then you rent it to whomever, whether it be students or whether it be seniors or whether it be whatever. And then you follow the boarding house rules and regulations. Or if you change that use to student housing, depending on where the zoning is you're at, if in that case, student housing is allowed in that zone, then you could get that change of use if it meets the, all the criteria of the zone.
Permitted use.
But during the change of use period is when you would tell them what type of use this property is. No different than think of a business, change of use business, going from a grocery store to a barber shop.
Right, so,
So that at the change of use of the facility, the building is when you would determine, is it student housing or is it boarding house or is it single family. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a zoning certificate
Yeah.
level.
And
So,
then, so if you got boarding house, then you could rent it to people that are college students,
mhm,
but it would not be considered student housing because they're college students.
mhm.
And if you got a boarding house, you could rent it to, I'm sorry, if you done it as student housing, then you'd have to do it as student housing and the people there would all have to be college students.
I guess maybe it goes back to how do we know where our student housing is?
They would have to apply for a zoning certificate and get the special exception because it's a special exception use.
And I thought the special exception was only above 5 bedrooms.
We're gonna look.
Okay.
I mean, yeah,
So
and look, I apologize because I wasn't involved in the student housing
No,
and
no,
I,
I'm just confused.
but I mean, just based on what I see here, I don't see that requirement, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Okay, so we do have some guidance then. Back to any other comments? Feedback? No?
Just the one thing real quick on something that Commissioner Turnbull said, on application. So I think you're right as far as what's listed here today on applications, items A through I, it looks like, that it has these certain things. I would think that maybe just add in there, at a minimum, it shall require these things. So that way, if it changes,
sure.
But these would always be required, but other things may be required.
Oh,
And
that's a
then,
good
and
idea.
then it's in addition to whatever what's the title? Provided by the code.
Yeah.
Whatever application it is at that time, but
Sure.
these items A through I would always be in it.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
I think there's also just a few little things to tighten up as far as spelling or spaces and maybe consistency. At one point it says housing official, and another point it says code housing official. Just to check over those things. I think we have enough then to bring it back at another time with those things we'd like to see.
Can I just run through those again? Just a brief recap.
Yep.
And so it sounded like at one point we were thinking about going a completely different direction, but from what I understand, what the board wants to see is just some additional edits to this base document that we've been talking about, right? We're not completely throwing it out. We're just making some additional refinements.
Right.
Is that a
Right.
fair?
Added detail.
Clarification.
Okay.
yes.
I think we kind of answered this question, but it sounds like just real clear explanation of how this works with student housing.
Yes.
I'm going to put in there the agent geographic requirement. I want to do a little bit more research on that and just confirm that I feel good if the board wants to go with the 60-mile radius direction. Okay. The appeals issue we discussed. General clarification of standards is another thing that I heard. What the standards are.
Mhm.
Did I miss anything other than sort of minor typographic?
I think some of it was just, like you said, consistency, like the absentee landlord thing on that letter B
Uh-huh.
also needed to match what was on that first page.
And I'd like to see the application, and I don't know if there's an SOP available yet on how the whole process is going to kind of work behind the scenes, or maybe that'll come later.
I think that'll probably come later. But sample application.
So we did take out owner occupied single family dwellings with only renting 1 bedroom is exempt. So if you are a single family dwelling and renting 1 bedroom, you would still have the rental. correct, registration. Because I saw that that was taken out. I think-
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm just clarifying.
Add lead,
Lead, got that. Add a minimum
Tighten
for
up.
the application.
maybe tighten up the exceptions. So there's not a broad discretion
Okay.
left to the housing official.
Actually, let me go back. Maybe I'm incorrect. So on H under rental or registration permit requirements on H, rental of a single room in an owner occupied dwelling in an R1 or R2 shall not constitute a zoning violation. So does that mean it's letter H under section 8.2.40 rental or registration permit requirements? I'm on page 5 of the application or it's right here. Yeah. So rental does not constitute a zoning violation. Rental of 2 or more rooms in a dwelling unit must be consistent with the underlying zoning. So either way, does that mean a rental registration would still be needed for a single family home who's renting 1 bedroom?
Right, as long as if the owner's not living in the house, if it's a 1 bedroom year round, you need to register the thing. If you're renting an extra bedroom in your house and you're living there and saying, I have this extra room and I want to rent it out, you don't have to have a rental registration.
Well, is that what that means though? That's what I'm asking because,
The way it's written, you do.
Yeah.
The way that it's
right,
currently written, you do,
So
because they want to, right, make sure that it does meet
right.
the standards.
how about if you
Yeah.
are retired and you live 6 months here and 6 months somewhere else? And you rent your house maybe weekly or bi-weekly, you might come home once a week. You know, you might rent it in the winter time for skiers, wedding, somebody's having a wedding. I
Okay.
mean, I don't know how you register that. I mean,
If you're still taking.
I would still think you'd have to register
Money.
it.
right,
You're
so how would they
still
register the rental?
same way.
Yeah. Are they
Is there
renting?
a B&B or what is it,
That's why we had talked about what type of registry. I don't
or a
know.
tourist?
Yeah. Or does it matter what type?
At that point, I don't know that it matters.
Right, because
Right,
they're here.
right. You
they're
just
here
still,
6
yeah,
months
you
out
would
of the
still
year.
renew it every year and,
Yeah.
and
How would you change the rental to a different person if they rent every week or you have to change it every?
no.
No. I wouldn't.
No,
Is it a yearly application?
Isn't it 3?
3 years.
Yeah, I was wondering if it should be yearly, to be more in line. And I'm not saying inspection yearly. I'm saying the application yearly. That'd also help keep records up to date too. Is that something we want to consider?
I think if you stick with the 3,
Mhm.
I think we're talking about this 4. Once we iron it out.
It's just that to go through that inspection process was the idea of 3 years. We didn't want them to have to go through the inspection. I think what you're getting at is, well, if the renters change, do we want to be notified of that?
No, what I'm getting at is, just to keep updated paperwork of where the rentals are, if they're active. Because it's getting to be 9 o'clock and I'm losing my mind now.
Is there any other than the application, is there anything other than town, a business license or anything of that nature anything that a renter would be doing for that property, the owner would be doing for that property as a renter, to rent it out? Some kind of,
Like a business registration? or
yeah, something of, I don't know, like we have
like a
business
vendor's
license and
license?
things, but I don't think there's a business license for that or not. I'm not sure. But
We don't have a process for that. no.
I don't think so. No.
I'm only asking that because then that would be your annual thing potentially or something of that nature, but
I mean, you could, spitballing, you could require that the information be updated, updated annually, even if the license is for 3 years. You have to send in your
Is that,
the information
is that
every year.
in there already? I can't remember. I think there is something about it being updated, but I can't. I can't find it now. Oh, and then the tenants' rights notice, is that like a standard county thing? Landlords must provide tenants a written tenant rights notice.
I think that's a state requirement.
Is that a state requirement?
Mhm.
So we don't, okay, so, all right. But is there a place in here that says they have to update if something changes? Oh, the applicant shall be required to update the information provided their application or structural modification. So that would cover if the number of tenants changed then. Because if we're going back to safety and we want to know how many people are in a build or living there and there's a fire and it hasn't been updated in 3 years, that's not very helpful. I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to say, you got to keep the information of how many rentals. I just don't, the cost to re-inspect and the manpower to do it every year.
I'm not
would be
saying
cumbersome.
re-inspect, just
Okay.
the application.
Okay,
Yeah. Because that's, yeah,
yeah, that's reasonable.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just updating the records is reasonable.
that's it. I'm not, yeah. God knows we don't need an inspection every year. No. Anyways. Clark, does that kind of summarize what you needed?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, on to discussion for ordinance 25-15, amending title 8 for establishing a vacant property registration tax.
Clark, do they have to take a motion since it says for discussion and consideration or not?
We had,
It does, it
Yeah.
says consideration.
It says for discussion and consideration, just for our, so for the minutes.
okay, so is there, okay.
Well, I'm just clear. I mean, I don't.
No, I think that,
You
I
think
think
you're
that's
good?
fine. I was
thought
just,
We had listed it so that it could be
Right.
Either way.
voted on either
Either
or. Yeah,
Does it need a motion?
doesn't need a motion.
hold on.
Need one, I'll give you one.
Oh, you want to just rattle
Wouldn't
one off?
hurt.
Let's just rattle one off.
Yeah, I just, please, if you don't mind.
Where's the number at? 25-03, wasn't it?
Yep, right,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll make a motion to table ordinance 25-03, amending title 8 rental registration agreement for staff and town attorney to bring back additional information as requested or discussed here in the meeting tonight.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. Now we're moving on to the ordinance 25-15, amending title 8 for the vacant property registration and tax. Where do we want to start on that one?
How about this? This is the first pass at this ordinance. So why don't I go through and give an executive summary,
Mhm.
and then I can take feedback and presumably take said feedback and come back at a later date with another draft of this. So the highlights, I mean, I think you probably generally remember how this is meant to work, that if there's a vacant property, it be registered for purposes of making sure it's maintained. And then if it remains vacant for a certain period of time, there are property tax increases associated with that. I think the first thing I would note is the definition of vacant building. When we talked about this conceptually, there was some discussion as to how we're going to define a vacant building, particularly with respect to mixed commercial and residential properties where you have a commercial space on the bottom floor, apartments over top, or something like that. And how are we going to define vacant when maybe the apartments are being rented, but the commercial space is not, or vice versa? So on page 2, the definition of vacant building is crafted in an effort to focus more on those instances where there's vacant commercial space. This definition is similar to what the city of Frederick has in its code. So it's 50% of the square footage of the ground floor, to the extent that that ground floor is for non-residential use. So consider whether that is what you want to be targeting, or if you want something broader. It's applicable in B1, B2, and VZ. Again, I think there was some conversation when we were discussing this conceptually as to how broadly we wanted this to apply. So those are the zones that were initially selected. As it's currently written, you have 1 year of the property being vacant to register it, and then 2 years before an inspection is required, and 2 years before the tax increases start to apply. So just again, consider that timetable in terms of what you're trying to accomplish here.
So you said 2 years before?
Inspection becomes necessary. So you have a year to register, and then when we get down to it, 1817.70 is where we talk about inspections. You have the information that will be required on the application. You have the maintenance standards, which I concede probably could still use some work. And a lot of these are kind of just referring to things that would already be in our code anyway. And maybe it would be more beneficial to, for example, in B, cite the town's grass ordinance rather than restate it here.
I was going to ask.
The inspections, I would also consider whether we want to the extent that, so again, so as to avoid any sort of constitutional issue with barging into people's houses or properties without consent. We do have this option where they can retain a certified building inspector to perform the inspection. I wonder whether it might not be a good idea to include what specific information would need to be provided by the building inspector, maybe sort of a form like, hey, is this met? Is this met? Is this met? To the extent that we're not permitted to do this ourselves. On page 5 of the ordinance, 55 of the packet, again, similar discussion with respect to appeals that I mentioned with the last ordinance as to whether or not it makes sense to have a separate appeals process for your community, or whether or not to just let the classic municipal infraction citation process play out and deal with the enforcement here. Below there, you see the hardship exemptions that we discussed. Those are the 3 that I came up with under qualifying circumstances that I think would be the most appropriate. I do think that we want to make sure we're articulating what would be a hardship exemption and not just leaving it up to whoever is interpreting that in the time, because that obviously lends itself to uneven enforcement. If there are other circumstances that you think should qualify as a hardship, I'm certainly open to hearing those. And then the violations, we need to pick a fine amount. I suspect that $1,000 is probably not what the board is looking for, and I'm not even sure about the 500, but that will need to be filled in. So that is the executive summary of the things I remember us discussing last time. So if there is additional feedback and comments or questions, I can do that.
I guess I'll start.
All right.
Qualifying hardships exemption. So if I have it listed for sale property that's, I would expect to be, say, $300,000, and I list it for $20 million, just so I don't have to do anything. Is there any way we can limit that? I don't want somebody saying, well, it is listed for sale, but you know it's at a price that it's never going to get any offers at.
Yeah, can try to fine tune that a little. I mean, it's going to be challenging to say what is a reasonable offer, right? Obviously 20 million, the 20 million versus 300, that's the easy one. It's
Right.
the 300 versus the 375.
Right. Yeah, that's
the
within
tighter
that
case,
reasonable.
right?
But I mean, when you're
Um,
really obnoxious about it,
Yeah, I mean, I would think that maybe the requiring it to be listed with a actual agent. I'm not sure that, and I could be naive about this. I'm not sure that many agents are just going to list property that they think has no chance of moving.
right?
So I think that helps mitigate some of that.
Right.
I hear you. I can put some thought into if there's a way to kind of maybe tune
Yeah, I
that
just
a
want
little
to
bit more.
tighten it up so you just
Yeah.
don't. Hey, yeah, I've listed it. I have no intention of selling, and that price is never going to get anybody to look at it.
Yep.
What about death or illness of the owner as a hardship?
So death, I would say, would be dealt with
Probate.
the probate or other court proceeding. Illness, I would not be covered by anything that I have here. So
I didn't know if that's something we should, or if that, I don't know. Just. Although it does say qualifying circumstances shall include, so it sounds like there's room to.
yeah, although the intent is to get away from that. So
Oh.
to the extent that that opens the door, I would actually counsel in favor of closing that door a little bit more. Illness, potentially, I think that you would need to specify this is more than just a cold. Obviously, this is
Right.
some sort of disability that prevents the owner from managing the property.
Right, like if they're dying of cancer, for example. Like, I don't know, I was just thinking that sometimes that becomes an issue for some.
Yeah. I can bring some language back to that effect.
Okay. I mean, if the board thinks that's a.
I agree, but I think there has to be something about the illness to where it's a disabling.
Yeah.
Any of that is going to have to be limited because the fact that you're
You got 2 years.
going to be disabled for whatever reasons, unfortunate, but at the same time.
Right. We obviously want to be sensitive about that, but
But the property still has
Sure.
to be maintained.
Right.
It still has to be safe for the remainder of the community.
yeah. And I mean, this is a situation where, again, it's not as though this is someone who has fallen ill and is still residing in their property, but it's fallen into a state of disrepair. This is someone who has fallen ill and owns property in the town that they are not making any use of whatsoever. But I hear that concern, and I'll see if I can come up with something on that.
Yeah, it says all hardship exemptions are granted at the sole discretion of the town and may be subject to conditions. Again, just tighten it up, not maybe, but these are the exceptions.
I agree.
So for the taxation rate here,
Mm-hmm.
I can't find it now. Was there did we talk about,
And I misspoke earlier. I think I said that the tax rate didn't kick in until 2 years, but this says 1.
but maybe it was in the old version, I don't remember. Wasn't there something about giving them a year grace period?
A year to file. The idea was a year to file and say, hey, so you have a building that's vacant for a year. You have to file it by the end of that year saying my building is vacant. After another year, that's when all this kicks in, the fines and everything else.
So I guess, okay, actually, as I think about this more, I think what's going on here with the way this is written is you have a year to register it. And then I think I don't think it's clearly stated here, but I think what this is getting at is a year from the registration. So effectively 2 years, that's when the standard
Maximum 2
rates.
years. Because
Yeah.
if you register within 30 days, you now have a year from that.
That's
point.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a year from the
Up to a year.
registration.
Mhm.
Up to a year, but once you register,
Sure.
Right, so
No,
it kicks in on that registration date.
correct.
Right. But you're right. So some people could wait to
But-
register for 364 days, and then that's when the clock starts on their tax increase. Some people who maybe are a bit more responsible and register it within the 30 days, then their clock started earlier. So
And this is written for those.
yeah.
The tax rate does seem like it jumps to ×5, the standard rate as of the 4th year, which seems aggressive compared to Frederick City and other counties. And I'm just, is there a concern that we, by enacting something like this, that consequences of, somebody who would want to purchase a building for commercial use, small business owner might look at that as, oh my gosh, if I can't fill that right away, then this is what I'm going to be facing. Yes, it's motivation, but will we end up driving people away from purchasing buildings?
I think what you get, my interpretation would be, say I buy the building and I don't have enough capital to do the complete renovation. It's going to take me a couple years to renovate it. One of our exceptions is saying, if you're active construction, we can give them the exception for that.
No, that's not what I mean. I guess like, let's say a business moves in, it fails, and now they have trouble selling it. Okay, now granted, it does say it's actively for sale, but in your opinion, I know it's your opinion only. Is this something that's going to deter people from purchasing commercial?
From making the initial investment
Mhm.
to start a business with the
Mhm.
additional penalty that if you fail and then you can't move the property, you could be hit with a,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm marginally maybe, but I wouldn't think so. I think that someone, well, obviously, if you're coming in as a prospective new small business, you're not planning to fail, right? But I don't think that someone would be reluctant to do so just because there would be a fear that they would be unable to fill the building that they're purchasing in 5 years and they'd be paying 5 times their property tax rate. I don't think so.
It could be hurtful if it's a mixed-use building. Like I'm thinking of one on Main Street where the bottom portion is vacant and the upstairs is apartments. So if he's being hit by 5 times the tax rate and he would sell that property and then those tenants would lose their place of residence. So there are, it's going to roll downhill one way or the other.
Well,
Either by raising the rent to take care of the maintenance or selling the building. Evict. I just think the fines are too aggressive.
Can I speak on that just for a
Please.
second? If you don't make them aggressive, people are going to blow you off. I know a business in the Emmitsburg area right now that's being fined every day by Frederick County for not meeting a zoning requirement. And they said, we'll pay the fine every day because we're making a boatload of money. So it's still not fixing the problem. But they're just blowing it off and go, it's no big deal. And,
So what good does it do? So I'm trying to figure out how this works. So if we have currently maintenance standards, right, and we're fining the businesses for not maintaining the exterior of the property, that's not working.
well, I think that this is, I mean, partial, sorry, Kathy,
No, go
not
ahead.
to
Well, I
interrupt you.
was gonna say, the one that you're referring to, there are no maintenance standards for us to enforce on that exterior of the building. We would love to. And the very few that we've had, we did enforce. He pays the fines and that's done. It's a prime, you gotta think
So we need maintenance standards.
we need enforcement.
I think we need both. I think that
Well-
there's certainly definitely additional maintenance related code provisions that we could pass completely independent of this. I see this as, yes, it does address some of those maintenance issues. And I think I mentioned last time, there have been some situations with a vacant property where this would have been helpful, even above and beyond the maintenance issues. But I mean, ultimately, it is a vacant property ordinance. And the thing it's trying to get at is just the vacancy, right? I think what you're trying to accomplish is not having, say, vacant buildings on on Main Street, even if they are, you know, as maintained as they can be. At least that's my understanding of where we're trying to go with this.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to see dead space for a decade sitting somewhere. I want a thriving business community. I don't want buildings that are just left there not doing it. Even if they're cleaning the windows and everything out there, I want businesses in there.
For the vacant building definition.
Yep.
The last part of that says, and immediately adjacent to a public right of way. So I think that's not correct. Maybe it's not adjacent to a public right of way.
Would there be any that wouldn't be adjacent to?
If you have a sidewalk, that's an adjacent public right of way.
Immediately adjacent.
Yeah, we're not gonna have anything landlocked, that you're not gonna be at the middle of the field somewhere,
Yeah.
Because you're looking at the building itself and not,
the property, not the building, the property.
that's what I meant. Thank you.
And then I had a question about, this is only business, right? Businesses, right? We're not looking at residential.
We're also doing residential.
To the extent that
Oh.
they fall within the
Makes
The zoning districts.
those zoning districts.
Yeah.
Because it's not, when I read it, it's not clear that residential is covered. And then I'm curious as to, I think we talked about it before, but why only certain districts? Why handpick a few districts? Why not make it the whole town?
mean like for vacant.
So Vacant is
houses?
vacant.
Yeah, whether it's in the institutional zone or, yeah, it's not clear that this includes residential.
Well, vacant building means any structure that is not lawfully occupied by the owner, a tenant, or another authorized party on a permanent, non-transient basis. So that's any. And then the bit about the non-residential space only applies to mixed-use buildings. So I think it does apply.
Residential.
Right,
Mhm.
as long as, but we're limiting it to B1, B2 and the VZ zone.
Sure, and that's up for discussion.
Why?
That was just a
I think we had talked about targeting commercial first with trying to get our Main Street revitalized.
Right.
Before, yes, we could do residences as well, but I think the idea was to try to hit the, did we have a discussion that we could always look at a residential one later?
I think we
Yes.
did.
Yeah, you're correct, Commissioner, that the whole goal of this initially is to revitalize your village zone, your downtown. It's one of the key components. It's an easy step towards revitalization to bring in the commercial.
But
think
as
that's-
written, it covers residential. So that would have to be enforced, even if it wasn't our intent.
So then could you change it then to say in these three zones for commercial and mixed-use buildings only?
yeah. You could do that if
That-
you
that
if you
way-
wanted to exclude residential.
That way
you
the
could.
resident on Main Street is treated the same as the resident in Brookfield or wherever.
So would that make sense then at 8.17 where it says vacant property tax and registration to clarify it at the top level too? Or just down in the details so that it's, if you're,
It's a definition
it's a different.
change.
Okay.
You clarify it in the definition, and then it
Okay.
carries throughout.
Okay. Um,
So for now, just put that away, no matter where the residential property is, whatever zone, because it could be in the village zone. It wouldn't be in B1 and B2. Residential wouldn't be,
Right.
but if you.
Yeah,
take
if
out-
you- if
but
you wanna
take out
complete-
the solely residential only property in village.
Yeah.
zone,
So if you wanted to, you could have it
To be
apply
fair.
to non-residential properties and mixed use with the definition that we have. You could do that if that's what you want.
I'm saying leave mixed use alone because it is commercial.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's just solely residential.
Yeah.
It would not be included. And that way they're residential across the board in all zones is covered, is not part of this.
so, okay.
But shouldn't it
Just
be
to be fair.
non-residential vacant buildings in all zones?
Well, by default it is because there is no residential in B1 and B2.
Well, I think what Commissioner Turnquist is saying is apply that to institutional,
IP and ORI.
Oh,
essentially broad. I mean, I think, not to speak for you, I think what you're suggesting is apply it to all zones, but just have it be strictly commercial or
If we're gonna
non-residential.
Eliminate residential. I don't know what. Is that how
that's what I thought the goal was, so.
to eliminate take out residential? So this would be non-residential, commercial
Commercial or mixed use.
or mixed use.
And just take out the limitation on what zones it applies to.
That's fine too.
I did see for the inspection, there was the option of the owner hiring their own certified building inspector. I
Mhm.
guess we didn't want people coming, we didn't want people coming in, but we don't have that option for rental registration, correct? For like,
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sorry.
You,
I think in our rental registration,
Yeah, we did take it out and we had it just the town's code enforcement officer was handling it.
yeah, and
Mhm.
honestly, I'm coming from, I'm okay either way. I'm just, I could see how a property owner who has rentals may say, I would prefer to have my own inspector than to have somebody from the town come in. So do we make that the same in both or do we not? I don't have an opinion. I'm just bringing it up.
Valid point.
it could be done that way.
I didn't know if there was a goal for the,
If they want to spend the money, they get a certified inspector or whatever, then
to give them, because I know that was one of the concerns was, I don't know if I want somebody from the town in on my property. Just something to consider.
Was there something in here about, I can't find it. If the town makes any improvements, they could sue for reimbursement.
it's not in this code. That's in the,
Yeah, that's like if we cut grass, we can charge the,
yeah, that's somewhere else within the,
But is that in here?
I
Like,
don't think so. I don't recall it being in here.
but it's elsewhere within the code.
That's why I was kind of saying with respect to,
If you look at it, page 54, letter H, where it says, shall establish and publicly post maintenance standards for vacant properties throughout the proper channels. Failure to maintain vacant property in accordance with standard constitutes a violation and may result in enforcement actions, including fines, corrective action by the town at the owner's expense or other remedies. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, when we had talked about that for the rental registration program, I think Commissioner Hoover said, no, the town doesn't want to get in the business of making repairs. So do we want to take that out of here?
Or I think the only time I've heard of that was like when the town's mowed
For mowing,
for mowing, right?
correct?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I would.
I
not be in
prefer to
favor
not
of us-
have it in there for staff, just for liability reasons.
Yeah, I think it's just a nice hammer to have there. You never have to use it. But it gives you additional tools if, the property's going bad and, hey, I have the water's leaking into the basement. I got 6 feet of water if needed. I can go in and clean that up. Otherwise, I'm waiting for a firefighter to fall through the floor.
Or say, for example, you have an overhang that's going over a sidewalk and they don't repair it and we have to shut a sidewalk downtown for, it would give us the option that we could do something
Right.
to, we wouldn't be going into the construction business, but we could at least keep things safe and keep the town open.
But we decided not to put that language in the rental registration. So I guess my question is, should it be, if it's here, should it be there? Because the same scenarios would apply.
Ooh.
But I think in the rental registration, you would just deny them the application and not make the repair. Without the rental registration, they don't need it.
That is more of a stick
They would fail.
than
They would just
this.
fail.
Right.
Well, this you'd be fined if you're not meeting the maintenance standards.
Right. But not having, as we discussed, not having a rental registration license as a landlord puts you in a really bad position with your tenant in terms of being able to even collect rent.
If they do not pass an inspection, what then? Do they have like a certain amount of time to correct it? Does it immediately go to the fine?
It would go to, well, so that sort of gets back to the, should we be just citing the code sections that already exist that apply to some of these issues to the extent that they do? Because in those code sections, they will include things like cure periods. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a catch-all cure period here in this section. And then it goes to the fines. I think that's what you're asking. I apologize.
And I think that's what your answer. So, if they fail inspection, then I guess, what do they do then? That's the
So
thing.
if they fail inspection, they should cure the issue.
Yep.
Because again, this is unlike the rental registration. It's not like we're pulling their vacant property license.
Right.
They're just registering to make sure that we know about them. So if they fail an inspection, they either cure it. If they fail to cure it, citation.
And that's the part that's will be potentially clarified, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. That's all the questions I had. Anybody else have questions? Feedback? Does that give you enough?
I have direction. If I
Okay.
could get, I think this one was styled similarly on the agenda. If I could get
A
another
motion?
motion just to move it on.
All right. Is there a motion to,
I'll make a motion.
thank you.
I'll make a motion that we table ordinance number 2025
Dash 15.
titled
2025-15.
2025-15 entitled ordinance to amend title 8 of the code of Emmitsburg entitled health and safety.
Wait, or is that
Is that right?
Or is that vacant property or is it
Am I reading the right one?
vacant?
It is health and safety.
Oh, sorry.
But it's the vacant property registration and tax.
We'll just throw that in there too.
All right, code entitled health and safety, vacant property and tax and registration. Table that for staff and town attorney to bring back additional
Based on the
amendments
based
to
on the
to
direction.
the draft ordinance.
All right, is there a second? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay. Motion carries 5-0.
Can I ask, when it comes back, can the resolutions be included that show the fee schedules?
We have the one ready for,
mhm.
we have the one ready for the rental registration.
Then I think the answer is yes.
Thank you.
We have one left on the agenda tonight. Discussion related to expanding the community garden. I know Commissioner Hoover asked for a break. Should we motion for a 5-minute recess, or are you wanting to power on? Please let me know.
I'd like to get done and get out of here.
All right, so we are powering on. Okay, discussion related to expanding the community garden. Um, so it, Mr. Dethridge had asked us to put onto the agenda, considering expanding the community garden for the rest of the space, the rest of the lot where it currently is now. This is just discussion. So that is something that we're bringing back to talk about how to proceed. I do have in our packet, it looks like, Mr. Dethridge, we do have his garden expansion proposal, but then it says up here that it was being withdrawn. So I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Mr. Dethridge, is there still request to expand the community garden? Okay.
Mr. Dethridge brought this up at the Parks meeting also, and he doesn't have a problem planting. What was extended, if it gets extended, what is going to be planted in the front part of the original Maryland native plants? Is that what it's going to be?
Well, Mr. Dethridge isn't up at the microphone, so if we want, I don't know if you want to come up. I'm interested in hearing what that was, because I know that's a different conversation, a separate conversation than what happened at Citizens Advisory. So trying to put it together to figure out what exactly is the request. Let's start there. So is this only if we feel the need to expand it, or is it something that you wish to have expanded? It was originally put on the agenda at your request, Mr. Dethridge, so I'm trying to figure out which way to go with this.
I was told the Citizens Advisory Committee was going to propose their own plan. So I withdrew mine. But this was already on the agenda. So if the board says, go ahead and expand the garden, I'll expand the garden. I'll either do it based on the plan that I submitted, although that wasn't complete yet. And everything's subject to change, because every year I get into that lot, I start something new and I discover there's a problem and we have to change what we're doing. So to tell you I have a concrete plan, no, because I don't know what I'm going to get into when we actually hit the ground. But it's up to the board as to whether or not we expand it. I've got families telling me, we got 5 kids, we want 5 more beds. I don't know, there was really no plan other than me in the library making an experimental garden is about what it amounts to, an educational garden. Now I've got 16 people that want to grow food in it. Actually, it's probably closer to 20 people asking me for plots now. They're trying to feed themselves out of it, which was never my intent, but that seems to be the direction the gardeners are going.
Okay, so I think it would behoove us to maybe figure out and regroup what is the purpose of the community garden. Did we have that outlined? Was it meant to be a place where we have people coming to plant their plants in a bed, or is it meant to be let's put plants in the ground and people come and enjoy? So
I think it's the idea, Jack, and forgive me if I'm wrong, is we were going to let people grow and we would provide places for them to plant, and they dictated what they planted and what they did with it. I don't think in the larger picture that has changed. I don't think we want to get in and say, hey, this is the community garden space, and we're going to fund to make sure that there's bed space or ground space for plants. I don't think we want to get in and dictate what they can put. The individual, we say we have X number of spaces, and those spaces are out here, and you can do with what you please in your space as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
And if you want to grow, pollinators, cool.
Yeah.
If you want to grow cucumbers, fine. It's up to you. I think we can appease everyone here. We don't have to say it's only for food items or it's only for native plants.
Yeah.
It can be whatever they want.
Yeah.
I would agree with Commissioner Hagan on that. I don't know if the town staff originally or the previous mayor originally had any input as to what the community garden at this level would be, or what it had to be, or so not knowing that, assuming that there was no real
The,
solid.
yeah, the only
This is what it had to be,
instruction I had
rules.
from anybody originally was Commissioner O'Donnell. I said, what am I doing? He says, Jack, nobody knows what you're doing. Do whatever you want.
That wasn't stated at a council meeting.
No, that was told me privately.
I just
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to make that clear.
And the
But-
only other direction I had was from Kathy. She said, please don't plant anything illegal like marijuana or opium poppies,
Understood.
which
Took
blew
away all the fun.
one of my plans right out of the water, but
Well,
Took away all the fun.
I think that there's a misunderstanding or miscommunication as to what that space is used for. And since we had that little one over by the,
Mhm.
do
I
do the
was gonna
same
ask you-
guidelines apply?
But I was going to ask you about that one because I mean, that one seems to be sitting over there just growing wild. You're talking about the one in the park,
Mhm.
right? We're just kind of growing wild and I don't know who or how that's managed or why that's not part of the existing
Mhm.
garden. But, so that's my only real question or concern, but, as far as
I thought about taking that one over too.
well,
I think what I would like to see before we expand the garden is to clarify the purpose. And like the little tiny one that we had before, was a postage stamp size,
Mhm.
little tiny squares that you could rent out or sign up for. There were certain guidelines so you knew who was going to get the bed, and there were correct me
Yeah,
if I'm
they
wrong.
had to come in
Yeah.
and get the flower bed in like what, February, March? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believe they're all being used. No. Oh, never mind.
no, it's,
Right.
it's,
So I guess the
crazy.
question is, and I've been asked by residents, do the guidelines for how to sign up for a bed for the old community garden pertain to the new community garden? And that was something I couldn't answer. So I don't know that we have anything like that. in
I think
place.
the old gardens on the website tells people how to do it.
Right, but does it apply to the new one? And if not, maybe it needs to be considered. So that there was no,
I was gonna say, I think the consistency of those signups for whether it's the little garden, I'm gonna call it the little garden and the bigger one, but consistency of how they sign up should be
Mhm.
the same, I mean, I would like to see them both be managed similar, rather by the same person or by a different person or whoever, but has some type of oversight or whatever you want to call it, some, watching over to make sure that they're all rented out. Well, not make sure, but try to have them all rented out and whatever, but I would like to see them get tied together if we could, but,
I think what has
they plan out
happened
here.
is the success of the garden was something that nobody ever imagined. So we didn't know we needed rules, regulations, didn't know that there was going to be this much interest in planning different things and what have you. So yeah, I think that we need to come up with some general guidelines and listen to what everyone wants out of the garden. Can you plant the pollinators next to the corn? I don't know. I have no idea. Should there be different sections of where you plant certain things? That kind of stuff. How many beds can we put out there?
how do we Equitably assigned.
Right,
beds.
who gets a bed? How do we do that?
Timeline.
We never thought the success of this thing was gonna take off. And unfortunately, something great has turned into an issue. And I never thought I would see this. I never thought that we could take something so good, but and have it turn into a contentious issue.
Well, it
It is
wasn't an
good.
issue. The issue. It, okay. I think people wanting to participate doesn't mean it's contentious. So I do want to state for the record that for the Citizens Advisory Committee, on behalf of me, the president, I'm sorry for what you've went through publicly because you were asked to provide feedback. You gave the feedback. You did what you were directed to do. So in order to avoid any misunderstanding, we need to clarify how many beds what is the money going to buy? Are we using grant funds to buy beds? And are they equitable size beds? And if there's different size beds, how do we do signups that way? Do we make it so that Mr. Deathridge as the founder gets some of the bigger ones because it was his baby and we give him that
I'll be
section?
planning nothing there. from
And-
now on. My family's done it. I'll help the library. I'll build out the rest of the lot, but as far as running it, I'm out. As far as planning anything there, I'll advise, but we won't be gardening there. It just got out of hand so fast. I was not happy with what happened on the Facebook page. I tried to stop it, but once it got started, I couldn't do anything about it. Last thing I wanted was a business to get hurt over this. That was ridiculous in my opinion.
Well,
And
I agree.
I'm almost to the point where I wish I'd have never started the garden.
I agree. However, in a way, Mr. Deathridge, you should be proud because when you first came to Citizens Advisory in 2022,
Mhm.
your idea for the community garden was you wanted to get people interested
Mhm.
and excited and enthusiastic for gardening. And here we are in 2025, and that's exactly what you've done. You've gotten people excited and enthusiastic, and they want to be part of it.
Mhm.
So I don't think it should be an either or. I think it should be a community garden that we can, bring the community together. like
My
we
goal
said
was to
before.
build it and then let the town do what they wanted with it.
So, go ahead.
No, as you can say, Jack, I'll tell you this, my wife has a spot over there and she loves it and she thinks it's the greatest thing. And she's already asked to do another one, but she loves it. And I know she's met other people over there that have great times regardless of what they're planning. And there's different people that she's met that she wouldn't have met otherwise, but
Mhm.
her intent is obviously to hopefully do 2 plots next year, but
There's-
it's been great. She loves it.
How many people have participated in the?
Quite a few of them.
There are 16 people gardening there right now. That's not counting whoever the library has
For the
brought
kids,
through there.
how many people? I think you
What-
mentioned at the meeting, it was
I think
about 200 people.
Tim said it was hundreds of people the
Yeah.
librarians have brought through there in their program.
How many beds currently?
Oh, I couldn't tell
Beds.
you off the top of my head.
So that was one thing that we had talked about is that, if it sounds like the extra beds, you would have enough beds if everybody started with one. And then if they say, hey, we need more beds, there's a finite number of beds. Well, you have to wait. We don't have any more beds. You can try signing it up next year. So some of these things need to be worked out. Also, as far as if we're going to have additional money, I'm concerned about the funds, grant funds, town funds, personal funds. I would like to see the expansion postponed until we can have clarification so that there would be no misunderstandings moving forward.
But, what are you talking about expansion?
Do we say that the garden can go through the entire lot, the whole empty lot? That was the question.
That's the proposal or
Right.
request, I guess, right?
Right.
Well, right now,
I thought.
that
For a while.
garden is all mobile, correct? It can
Yeah.
be all picked up. and moved.
Everything can be picked up
It's
and
not
moved except the
permanently
water
stuck in
line.
the ground. So it can be all picked up and moved somewhere else. It doesn't have to be there
Well,
itself, but it's all mobile garden.
I understand, but the request was to put to the agenda, can the community garden be expanded to the entire lot? That was
Right.
the question before
But the
us.
temporary
Yes,
plots,
right, with the beds.
Yeah.
All those beds can
Bed
be picked up
pans.
and moved.
and the big pans. or
Right.
big, troughs or whatever they're called.
Correct.
Because the one over here in the community park is not mobile. It's
Correct.
permanent.
Right.
We talked, you mentioned a purpose and guidelines. Is that something that could maybe go before the green team to come up with some parameters and then with your participation?
Well, we had feedback from two committees already. And that's something I do want to. This is where we get into the feedback provided. This is where the committee thing came up.
Right.
We had feedback requested from Citizens Advisory. There were 5 people. They did give that feedback. It didn't go anywhere. Then it went to Parks and Rec for a separate advisory committee to provide additional feedback. So, which is fine. It can go any advisory committee that it wants. I just want to caution that when one group feedback doesn't make it forward and it goes to another committee, the perception does not look good. And that's what I wanted to clarify with our committees, is when do we bring things forward? When do voices get heard?
My problem is, well, I don't see if this problem is, I think the community garden should have stayed with the Parks Committee itself. I don't even know why it went to the Citizens Advisory.
It went to the Citizens Advisory in 2022 because Jack originally, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, went to Parks and Rec. He did not get a quorum to bring it to the agenda, so he came to Citizen Advisory. We all said, at the time, the members said, this is a great idea. We vote to move it forward. We'd like to see this happen. Community garden is a great idea. Since then, it has been, Jack is,
2022.
and it's been
As of last
continuing to
month.
have updates through Citizens Advisory since then.
Right. Last month, the Parks Committee, since we do not have to have a forum, from what I understand, voted to expand the community garden, or agreed
Mhm.
to expand it with the members that we had present.
How many members did you have present?
2.
Okay, so again,
Hmm?
I think
2, not including me.
when we have something that starts on one committee and then there's feedback that isn't received well, and then it goes to another committee,
Mm.
and then they say, well, we're gonna vote it forward. What perception does that give to the other committee?
That
And
said
their
the op-
voice.
That may, in this case, may have said the opposite.
The only reason I took it to Citizens Advisory this last time is I had been told someone on the committee did not want me to expand. They thought the lot was better used for something else. So what I wrote was a letter explaining that everything was mobile, and if the town ever needed the lot for anything else, it could be picked up and moved. I was also asked, I believe by the mayor and Ms. Willits, for an expansion plan, which I drew up and I attached it to my letter explaining that it was all movable. I never wanted permission from the CAC. I was just trying to get them to understand
Correct.
there was no reason to stop me from doing this, because if the town ever needed it for something else, it was all movable.
Right.
Right.
That was the only reason I went to the CAC. Otherwise, my intent was to go to the Parks and Rec. Because I assumed that's where it was going to end up anyhow.
Well, and maybe that's something that needs to be determined, is if it starts on
Yeah, I
one,
know it
does it go
definitely
to
started,
another?
it definitely
does.
started at a CAC meeting when
And
you
for
were
as
the
long as I was
commissioner.
there, we've received park updates on CAC.
Yeah.
So I don't really care where it falls.
Yeah.
What I don't want to have are committees' voices. The perception is yours doesn't matter, I'll go here.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner, just to get a little add on here, those committees, as much as we need them and, you know, we really cherish what they give to us, the overall decision is made with U5.
Correct.
So, you know, they're just giving recommendations. So there's nothing wrong with getting different recommendations. It gives you all different things to choose from, or bits and pieces to say, hey, I like this, what they want, this group wants to do, but this might be able to fit in with this group. And it just gives you a little better, different plans to pick from.
I agree. I think it could be all cards on the table, and more input, the better. I'm sorry, you didn't have the microphone on.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did?
I
I'm
turned it
sorry.
off, I turned it back on.
I
But
missed it.
No.
No, I
pretty quick.
agree. I think more advisory, the better, but where my issue is that if you don't need a quorum to bring something forward,
Correct.
okay? Because there was no vote taken and they were given the direction by the commissioner to say, well, if you have feedback, you go make a different garden plan. Okay? So they didn't go into this with, let's have a different garden plan. They were doing what they were told to do. But meanwhile, that feedback has no way to come back to this board. That's my problem. So I would like to regroup, figure out what is the purpose, what guidelines are we going to put in place? And if we do decide, are we going to have beds? Are we going to have plants in the ground? What does the money go towards? Do we put the money into beds? Do we put the money into plants? How should that money be spent? I think all of that should be hashed out so that no committee has any, it's crystal clear for all parties involved. What is the purpose of the garden? What are the guidelines? How do we sign up? How do we make it equitable? And really, this came from a good place of people being excited. So Jack, again, I come back to that. This comes back to people who are excited to be part of that vision that you created. And everybody who drives past it says how wonderful it looks and how beautiful it looks. And we would like to see it. I would like to see it expanded. And it should be a happy occasion.
Something. So Jack, I've heard you say before where other, I think jurisdictions, municipalities or what have you have come to you or talked to you somehow, some way about, because they have gardens in their jurisdictions. Can you give us a list of who those jurisdictions are, and then maybe we can get the staff or somebody to contact to get, what is the rules and regulations of what other municipalities or towns or cities or whatever that have that? Because if we're gonna, if the town, whether it be the town staff or the town council or a combination of whoever, or a committee is going to come up with some regulation, I'd like to have something that has something where they can start from, what other jurisdictions are doing. Hopefully that work. To establish those, some, if not all, of the footprint of the, you know, what's the best way to go about it if we're going to do something?
And is that something we put back onto town staff, or do we take the feedback?
Yeah, Sustainable Maryland's out there telling people to use us as a model.
So we should have them on.
I mean, when they're out there going around and talking to other municipalities, they're saying, you know, try to emulate what Emmitsburg is doing. So a lot of what, you know, when we going out, you know, when Mike Huntington goes back from Sustainable Maryland, he's out there telling people, he's saying, look at what Emmitsburg is doing. So if we're going back to these places, they're being told, copy us. So I think we may be in uncharted ground. I think having a bigger plant is great, and I'm all in favor of that. But I think we may be the originators of all this, and people are just copying us. There may not. You know, we can certainly look to see if anything's out there. I'm not sure anybody's even got to the point that we're at.
I'm sure, well, they may not got to the point, they may have expanded or got beyond or had troubles or not troubles or whatever, but something where other jurisdictions maybe have tried some things that maybe they worked and maybe they failed, but at least we would know some things to at least consider. And
they do have master gardener,
right,
whatever, by county, or that could be consulted for something like that. I guess the question then becomes, who makes that decision? Where does
That-
that lie?
that part I'm not
Like,
sure
we're
about
gonna
yet.
have,
For me, I'm not sure about that part yet.
so, and the reason why I asked that is we do have many interested people who want to be a part of it. And is there a forum for people who want to be a part of it? Or is this a town staff and board decision solely?
I think
I would-
the board's role is to say, hey, we're gonna have to allocate X number of dollars, and this is what we want the dollars to spend for. And we can certainly dictate to say that, hey, everybody is open to use and it's first come, first served. We develop a method of who gets access. But outside of that, I'd say it's up to the people there. We can allocate and say that, hey, we have 60 beds and 40 of those are raised beds. And we're going to allocate that in X way. But I don't think it's the board's role to micromanage and say, hey, we're going to have X number of vegetable plants, X number of pollinators.
No.
I don't want to get
Agree.
down into the
No.
weeds. like
I
that.
don't either.
don't
I
either.
agree.
I agree.
I agree, if we get this new green team up, that, that's something they can work on. Why wouldn't they be able to work on putting
not-
something?
I'm not sure when your green team's gonna be up or what have you, but,
Well, you had
I
5
think that-
motivated people on Citizens Advisory.
so then send it back to Citizens Advisory or send it Parks and Rec or send it to one or the other or both. I don't care, but send it, and make that the task for that
Does-
committee
Does
to
the
come
green
back
team-
with a proposal.
The Green Team is actually a component of the Sustainable Maryland, and that helps with our grant funding, having the Green Team make these kind of decisions and work with that. It's Mike Honeyhake, which I can reach out to him and see what municipalities currently have.
And that would be something
community
that they
gardens.
could work on, yeah.
Right,
What rules and regulations, if any, do they have?
right.
Yeah, we don't want to let the garden go stagnant.
No,
I agree.
We've got it up and moving. We got to be ready
Maintain.
whenever planting season starts in March or May, or I don't know when. We want to be ready to go.
I don't have a problem with the
And
expansion.
and we
just-
want to have
but-
some, regulations in place or guidelines in place, shouldn't say regulations, guidelines in place. So whoever is out there, they know what the rules are from the very get-go.
Right.
I think those guidelines need to be in place before we approve an expansion.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the expansion. It's just that I think, if we're gonna do the guidelines, then I think there's gotta be, I don't know, for lack of a better word, to rush put on it.
That's almost like what comes first, the cart or the horse, or the
The
chicken or the
guidelines
egg,
come first,
well.
because otherwise it's
but you-
free for all and we're
it-
gonna end
it-
up right back where we are.
But if you're
right
gonna,
now.
if you're not gonna expand it, well, then there's not much more you can do other than what you
No,
have
it's-
there now.
I said,
And if you're gonna expand it, well, then your guidelines have to take that into consideration.
that's not true because we have no guidelines to begin with. There's no equitable way for people to sign up for a bed. I don't know why this is so contentious, honestly. We have people who want to sign up for a bed. There's no way for them to do that right now.
But then we have to expand.
No, we don't, because right now we have existing beds, but there's no guidelines for how they get beds right now. There's no way for
What-
them to do
Uh,
it.
And correct me, Jack, is it first come, first served for beds now?
We don't know because we don't have guidelines. There's no
Well, no, there's
guidelines.
practical, people are getting
Town
beds.
staff was referring people to my email and telephone number. And honestly, most people found out about it through the Facebook Emmitsburg Cares page.
Oh.
And then others just came by and just saw me there and came in and said, what's going on here? And I told them, can we have a bed? Yeah. And I ended up having to go out to the farm, buy a whole bunch of straw and order more dirt because they're just trying to fill everybody that wanted a bed.
Right. Now, I
Give
get
them
that.
Something, and I
there-
didn't
there's-
have a problem with that.
There's nothing wrong with first come, first serve. What I have a
Yeah.
problem with, I don't want to feel it's incumbent on you to fund this stuff. I don't want that happening.
Well,
Well-
and that's what's happening. And I do believe the direction from the mayor was not to use personal money. And if we're funding this from state and town money, and there's also personal money going into expanding the garden beds, then yes, we need guidelines. And I'm not saying not to expand the garden, but in order to expand the garden, those guidelines should be in place.
So, and for my clarity, I want to make sure. So when the guidelines, if we say our garden will consist of 40 raised beds, 15 in the ground beds, and you have to contact the town to allocate them, and the town just, people call in or email and say they want that, and we allocate it, and it's first come, first served. That the extent, are you looking for something more?
That's
Well,
what you did.
I think we could start with our current procedures because Kathy said we already have guidelines in place, right? To look at the, to rent the small beds.
Correct.
So we could start there. I mean, maybe everything's there that we need.
But this is something I really don't want town staff to have to manage, to try to manage 20, 40, 60 garden plots. That's, we don't have time for that.
I don't understand. It's just a matter of coming in, putting, whether you charge a fee or not. Okay, here's your name.
Again,
here's your
town
bed.
staff does not have time to deal with the garden. We need to take these citizens that you keep saying we have, and I know we have them, that are willing to sit down and work with this and manage this. We keep trying to get people in the community to be involved in these projects. Now we have them. Let's give them the responsibility to take care of the garden. It's hard enough.
Then let's make the guidelines so that they know what they're managing, Mr. Mayor. And you're not going to have worker bees if they don't know what they're doing and their voice is not heard.
And that's kind of what I said, but you have to make a decision on what are we gonna have? What are we gonna have? Are we gonna have just a garden where you plant vegetables? Are we gonna expand it to where there's gonna be different sections? We gotta know what's there before you set guidelines. You know, are you gonna have a little league field and try to field a Babe Ruth team? Well, that's not gonna work. We have to know what we're gonna do in that lot. And so we can know how much room we have to expand and to put different things in.
Does this town have any other purpose for that lot other than the community, the whole entire lot? Other than the community garden?
No,
Is the
not that I'm-
farmer's market's never going back there again?
I
Correct?
don't believe so.
So it's just empty space.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, town, and as far as the mayor's concerned, we don't have anything planned for that lot, no.
So Jack, your expansion plan, when is the ideal time for you to start doing that, the physical expansion?
It
And
depends
we're
on,
basically in the fall.
it depends on what I'm doing. I had a 5-year plan that got blown out of the water this year when the town got a grant that I was told
Right.
not to expect. And then it came in and everything we had planned for the original garden just came to a stop because we had to meet the Sustainable Maryland Grants deadline, which we did. I don't know how, but we managed to do it.
But for your expansion though, that you want to make.
My
you wanna
expansion?
Use the whole field. So for that to,
It would take years. We're not talking knocking it out in 1 year. The plan I showed to CAC, which I later withdrew, that was just to build a border around that part of the lot along the
a
road.
border of
A board,
pots,
yeah, a border of
of beds.
beds with mostly ornamental plants in them to attract attention, because it's amazing how many people do not know there's a community garden sitting there. I am shocked at the number of people I've talked to that had no idea there was a community garden there.
That's why the park signage would be helpful for that too, to
People-
wayfind.
I don't know how you reach out to people in this town.
I know.
I mean, short of standing on the square and screaming it, and then I don't think they'd hear you, so. But that's all I wanted to do was just build
So over the next.
the
6 to-
road frontage this year and then expand into the middle. I had certain things I wanted to do in the middle of that lot. But to do it all in 1 year, there's no way.
So over the next 6 or 12 months, you're only talking about going around the border.
Yeah. And that would be more than enough. The beds I had listed, the handful of people that helped me put them together, that move the dirt by hand because we don't have mechanized equipment to do it. And I don't want it. But you're moving, my sister and my wife and a couple of teenage boys moved about 2 tons of garden soil this year with shovels and a wheelbarrow. So
And perhaps we don't look at an expansion unless there's people
oh, it'll get
to
built.
help
It'll get
and
built. It just
maintain
can't be built in 1
and
year.
fund so that we, like, who's responsible for maintenance? That's something that came up. That was a struggle to maintain what you had now. So how do we expand in a smart way? And also determine how our funds are going to be spent on that garden. Do the funds go into plants? Do the funds go into beds?
I think the funds go into beds. The plants are what the individuals
Well,
are
that's-
supplying
That's-
out there.
That's
And I
not
think
what
we can,
he's saying though, Kevin. That's not what he's saying. So again, we need the guidelines. I'm in favor of not expanding until we have more set, clear idea of where this is going, what is expected money-wise, how can we do this equitably?
What if we could see a copy of the Sustainable Maryland grant to see how it was, what the town said it was being used for? That would, solve the purpose. To see what those requirements are, because that definitely needs to be part of any guidelines. And then we could look at our existing guidelines. And then why not have a workshop and just hammer it out?
I think ideally it would be nice to have a lot of the hardware come from town or state or grant funds so that everything you need to do gardening is on site. And then the plants are up to,
That's why it would be
Whatever.
useful, I think, to see the grant application, so we know what's required.
Yeah.
So we make sure we're able to get money, to help fund it.
is there a consensus to move it towards a workshop in the near future?
Commissioner Chris, what did you call that? The sustainable.
Sustainable Maryland
One.
grant.
Do you have any beds left over now, Jack? Didn't he build? Or you have to buy some?
He shouldn't be buying it.
No, not him.
Okay,
The grant money that we received. Did we use all of it?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
all spent.
All spent?
And the guidelines could include, how it's going to be managed and without it being town staff. Whether it's a committee or several people or a group of. But seeing that grant application might point us in the right direction. To get money in the future.
all right.
Would have to wait for it to open back up unless we just look at the old one.
Yeah, if we looked at the old one, I think it probably has the purpose and what we're going to use the
Right.
money for and what the purpose of the garden
That's
is.
a good point.
and-
Yeah, I agree.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Make a motion to table the expansion of the garden until the council here is able to review the Sustainable Maryland grant application that we've submitted for what the garden, what the funds was going to be used for. And for the council to hold a workshop in October to review the application and to establish who is going to establish any guidelines if at that time we decide it's
And we
needed.
could look at the existing guidelines.
Is there any?
Yeah,
Well,
for the
from the
small
other- yes.
garden.
Yes.
So
So we table this until we have a workshop in October, a workshop to include the Sustainable Maryland grant application.
do you
And for
want to
us-
specify October or just in the near future?
I'm just saying October,
All right,
because the sooner the better.
okay. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Actually, does this even need to be voted on? It says discussion only. It
I'm sorry, say it again.
says just discussion. I don't know.
No vote.
No vote.
Okay.
So we have guidance or that we're gonna
So
move.
that's my
towards a workshop.
suggestion.
Okay. All right.
Well, the suggestion is we adjourn.
We'll set the agenda for October 6th.
Okay, for October 6th, for admin business, at the mayor's request, there's an award presentation to Mr. Bob Black. Is it Catoctin Mountain Orchards? Yes. For consent agenda, just one item for consideration proclamation declaring October 2025 Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Agenda items, number one, swearing in of new commissioners. Number two, for consideration, reorganization of Board of Commissioners. Number three, for consideration, approval of construction bid for the North Seaton Avenue Waterline Replacement and Green Street Project. Number four, for consideration, adoption of Resolution 2025-01R, declaring the official intent of the town of Emmitsburg to reimburse from tax exempt bonds expenditures to be incurred with respect to the North Seaton Avenue Waterline Replacement and Green Street Project prior to the issuance of debt. Number five, for discussion and consideration, ordinance 2025-03, amending Title 8, establishing a rental registration program. Number six, for consideration, resolution 2025-06R, establishing rental registration fees. Clark has asked to postpone vacant property until November,
Thank you, Clark.
Okay.
and that's what I have.
Will there be an opportunity to hear on solar fields at that time?
I think depends how long you want the meeting.
I only ask because I've been asking for it for 3 years. I haven't seen it yet, so it would be nice to see that in the near future. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Is
Second.
there a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say second? I'm sorry. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Meeting ends at 10:20 PM.